Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow underway on this Wednesday edition. Charlie Arnold, very special guest, Outkick's own, joins us in 20 minutes. We've got Clay Travis, the Outkick founder, on today's show in hour number 2. Hour 3, Bernard Pollard, former NFL safety who always brings it, just like he did on the gridiron. He joins us coming up in a couple of hours as we get you to 6 o'clock Eastern. Chad, good afternoon.
Hutton, we have now hosted a show together for over 11 years.
Well past that. I think it's like 13.
Yeah, 2012, started 2012.
That's right.
Is when we started, so definitely over 11, close to 12 by my watch, as I look at my watch right now.
We also hosted without getting paid for 2011.
That's true. Yeah. If you want to go back, that's a great memory, Hutton.
I count
we started a show where we were indentured servants and did not get paid for that show.
Then we demanded to get paid.
And at one point even got yelled about something that we talked about on the show, at which point we had to bring up to our boss that, we're not getting paid to do this show, right, in your primetime slot. But by my watch, we've done the show for almost 12 years. And from the start of the show, we've had this mantra of banging hats. Let's bang hats, right? That's sort of the show mantra.
Full pads.
And that is full pad practice, full go, 11v11, ones versus ones, good versus good, all of that, every single day. That is the show mantra. I am here to tell you that Bernard Pollard lives by that mantra as well. This man bangs hats. He will bang hats again with us at 5:20 Eastern time today. I, for one, cannot wait. He is always a ton of fun. He does not lack opinions. That is going to be a great segment. They're all going to be good segments today, Hutton. Why? Because we bang hats.
Yes, it's time for our top headlines of the day. Scorched earth here on Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. Deion Sanders, not known for his tackling, not known for banging hats in full pads, of course, a great player, but he is certainly scorched earth on the NCAA.
Banging out pick sixes, though.
No doubt. And it doesn't shy away from a verbal confrontation whenever he has the opportunity. He's pissed off for greatness once again. He's blasting the NCAA because they have denied an automatic transfer for one of his top offensive linemen who tried to and has joined the Colorado football program. Tyler Brown is a two-time transfer who is an All-American, and they have not allowed Tyler Brown to immediately join the Buffalo's football program. So he's not going to be available for their matchup this weekend against TCU. And what must be cited, because this offseason they adjusted the transfer rules where they've limited it to 2 transfers, which Brown now would exceed by going to Colorado. And after joining Deion at Jackson State, now he's wanting to go play at Colorado, which would be his 3rd football program. They don't allow more than 2 transfers. They limit you to that unless it is for a physical or mental health reason. And Brown has cited that he would be in a dark place without playing football. And Deion primetime is saying to the NCAA, hey, you either say what you mean or you're pretending just to have this facade about mental health issues. So this will not be something that goes away quietly in the night because of the mental health concerns, even though Brown is a player that is transferring to follow the coach, not going to the program. That's clear.
Just when you think that the NCAA is just going to go quietly into the night and be quiet, they've been neutered by the Supreme Court. They've been neutered by conferences. They've been neutered by individual coaches and players at time. We get these little reminders that they're not completely dead. Arizona State decided to not go to postseason, not go to a bowl game this year. Why? Fear of the NCAA. Now the NCAA, who says, we're all about the student athlete. We want what's best for their well-being. We're about their collegiate experience, getting a degree, all of those things. Well, here you have a student athlete citing mental illness that's transferring somewhere, that didn't want to be somewhere else, that now wants to play at a different school, that has been admitted to that school and could attend school at that place and play football. What is the harm in this? What is the harm in just go ahead and rubber stamping it and saying, oh, he noted mental illness on there? Great. He doesn't want to play at this place. He wants to play at this one now for this coach. Okay, fine. Colorado's no factor in the grand scheme of things. If it's going to be better for his mental health and it's what he wants to do, who's really losing out in this whole thing? Let's let him play. Instead, the NCAA says, here's our last stand, guys. Let's rally the troops and let's say no to this. We have to make a stand on something so this kid will not be allowed to transfer again.
Sanders is saying yesterday in his presser, it doesn't make sense. Some things just don't make sense. You say you really care about mental health, but when you have someone really dealing with mental health, there's a problem. Then ostracizing him, not allowing him to do what he's blessed and gifted to do, and the thing that presents him peace, that's trying for a young man. It's like, wow, do you really care, or are you just saying you care? Are you caring when it's convenient or when it's profitable? That's coming from Deion Sanders. Brown started his college career at Louisiana, formerly Louisiana Lafayette, then transferred to Jackson State, and now has transferred to Colorado. And the issue I have with them denying it with immediate eligibility, Chad, is the timing of it. Tennessee went through this with the transfer from USC last year. It was right up until game week where you don't know whether or not the player is eligible or not. And they drag this on when I don't know what they're doing assessing this issue during the offseason. When you've prepared your team, you've prepared your depth charts, even Nick Saban has, and going in, we're now on Wednesday of game week, and this is a headline.
It's here. I mean, it's go time.
I don't understand why it's so late notice from the NCAA for the player. If it's really about the quote-unquote student athlete, I don't know why they take their sweet time with it and drag it out.
I'm sure they're going to give some BS about
with whatever
we've
answer
got
it
so
is.
many other players to get through, and this and that, and we're short-staffed, and we're poor, and we're getting money taken away from us, and this investigation costs so much money, and whatever. Allie in the YouTube chat says, getting a waiver for mental health happens all the time. There's definitely more to this story on why they didn't give this kid his. I don't doubt that. Maybe there is. This is where I'd like a little more transparency. Also, if you're just going to blanket say no on the waiver, I'd like to know the specific reasons why this mental health waiver doesn't get granted. If there is more that you know about it, if you're the NCAA, I'm fine with them saying more about it. If you remember, Michigan got pissed off because the NCAA in a release said, hey, this isn't just about not or paying for a kid's hamburger. About Michigan, it's about this. And Michigan's sitting there saying, wait a minute, you told us not to speak on this case. And now you're speaking about specifics of this case. So now you need to pipe down until everything is done. And that caused some animosity. That's one where the NCAA probably overstepped. If they wanted to release a statement on exactly why this kid is being denied the waiver and not just a no and why because we told you so, I'm all for that level of transparency. This is where they should speak. If there's something more going on that they know about, this is where they should speak on why they're saying no.
Brown has he put out his statement on his Instagram page. He mentions he's not going to be able to play with his brothers for the 23-24 football season. Hurts more than anything. And I'll skip through this. It's lengthy. My mental health appeal wasn't made up just to justify me coming to Colorado to play. I've struggled with my mental health my entire life. I've been going to therapy. I'm on antidepressants as well as anxiety medication since I was 18 years old. It's nothing I'm ashamed of or hide from. The NCAA stated to our compliance office that since I wasn't struggling to get out of bed, that my mental health case wasn't serious enough. Depression isn't something that just goes away. There are some days it's hard for me to get out of bed and be productive. There are some days I don't even want to leave my apartment and I want to isolate. Football has always been my largest tool in helping me through my struggles, and not having that hurts. There's more with his statement, but he's at least giving some clarity from at least his end of it. It's just bizarre that it took this long, and there's no clarity from the NCAA, Chad, as you mentioned. Trey Lance also has talked with the media. He says he's looking forward to a fresh start of sorts, and joining the Dallas Cowboys and being traded from San Francisco, working with Mike McCarthy this week, trying to get up to speed. And he's looking forward to learning everything from Dak Prescott, who reached out to him last year whenever Lance suffered his ankle injury, because Dak went through something similar. And here's an opportunity for Lance to revitalize what is a short stint. 8 games is what he has started in the National Football League. And now he heads to the Dallas Cowboys with a chance to, this year, behind the scenes, regroup. It was Steve Young who replaced Montana. He was traded to San Francisco and didn't become Steve Young until he was 29. Is it this version, or is it the long list of busts that we've seen throughout the National Football League in regards to high quarterback selections?
It's a good point about Steve Young. I mean, there's definitely a chance that Trey Lance is the guy that people projected him to be. They just didn't know that he wasn't going to be it for 4 or 5 years, right? There's a scenario where that's the case. For all the reasons you mentioned, the lack of experience in high school and college, the more likely outcome to this is that he's a huge bust and he's a backup for a couple of years, and then we don't really hear from Trey Lance again. But it's on him now to make that determination about what's going to happen next. How good of a teammate is he? How good of a quick study is he in this offense and under Dak Prescott? Those questions remain to be seen. But if he can do the job and get better while backing up a really good quarterback in Dak Prescott, maybe there is hope for Trey Lance. And certainly new scenery can help anyone get to better things. So I know that's what he's hoping. It's what the Cowboys are hoping.
Yep, and we won't hear much from him because he will remain the third string for a while. Cooper Rush, the backup to Dak Prescott moving forward.
And it's also good, I think, for him that we're not going to hear much from him.
Yeah, although Dak Prescott's known for getting injured. Played in just 12 games a year ago. Still was tied for the lead in interceptions.
We'll hear a lot more from him.
Yes, we will.
We heard a lot from Cooper Rush a year ago.
No doubt. We should hear more regarding Michael Orr and the claims that the Tuohy family tricked him into signing a document that he felt like was making him adopted into the Tuohy family, not just a document that made them the conservators of his finances and his name, image, and likeness during the blind side and everything else that came with it. They have filed 3 subpoenas, his attorney, Michael Orr as well, on behalf of Orr, 3 subpoenas in Shelby County here in Tennessee, asking for financial records, among them school records, CAA, the agency, and the production company through the blind side. So, Chad, as we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, this should be settled quickly based on those records and what was received by the Tuohys.
So am I to take this as, this was my assumption when I saw what he's putting the subpoenas out for now, is that the Tuohys presented their financials, and they've talked about it publicly since then and said, yeah, we all got the same amount, $100,000 or so. In fact, we paid the taxes on Michael's cut of it, and here's our financial records that states exactly that. So Michael Orr got something back that he didn't necessarily like, that wasn't in line with what he thought. So now the thinking is, well, did the Memphis City school system get something for the rights to the movie? Did the nonprofit? Did the production company give something out to someone else? Where is the money going? And I think the likely answer is exactly what Michael Lewis, the author of the book, said. Said, look, he's got a right to be mad, but if he wants to be mad about financials, be mad at the Hollywood film industry and how rights to books and other works of fiction or nonfiction are divvied out to the people who created that work. So I think that's probably where this is headed. And it seems now like Michael Orr is going down a different trail to try to get more information because the first batch of information is not in line with what he's claiming.
Chad, coming up tomorrow night, we've got college football. Florida and Utah. The Gators on the road, and the line has moved at DraftKings Sportsbook. It was 6.5 with the Utes being favored here. But since then, it's been reported and expected that Cam Rising is not going to play in this game. Their backup, the main backup throughout camp, has been a redshirt freshman in Brandon Rose. He's also injured, which happened recently in practice. So their third option in this is Bryson Barnes, a junior who has started some games, played in some games, replaced Rising in 2021 during the Rose Bowl. But he comes in to take on the Gators at home, and the line has dropped to 4.5, a 2-point swing based on the Rising news. You can take advantage of this with the Gators, who were not predicted to win a year ago. Head over to DraftKings Sportsbook. It's the perfect moment. If you're a first-time user at DraftKings Sportsbook, the exclusive deal is just for you. Begin by depositing as little as $5 into your sportsbook account. Make sure your first bet of $5 or more on any game is that in exactly $5 or more. And here's the kicker. Not only do you get the cash winnings for your bet, but you also instantly pocket $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. Those bonus bets, they roll in as 8 separate $25 bonus bets, so you got plenty of chances to up your game. Terms and conditions apply. 21 or over in a legal betting state. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Outkick.com/bet is where you go for this. Outkick.com/bet. Outkick, your one-stop shop for betting content.
Hutton, I'm on the app right now. I am loading up Gators money line with a third-string quarterback going for Utah. I'm surprised this thing hasn't already shifted to Florida as the favorite in this game, and I think it might eventually do that by kickoff.
Let me propose. If Florida goes on the road and loses to their third-string quarterback, Billy Napier, who I don't think is really out after this year, but it's not if you lose, it's how you lose. And this would not be pretty for him to get things jump-started based on the schedule that's upcoming with the balls on the horizon.
Look, I think at Kentucky and Tennessee at home already looks daunting for Florida. Looks a lot more daunting if you lose to a third-string quarterback in week 1 at Utah, even though the Utes are still currently the favorite.
He has completed 37 career passes, 4 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions.
Same as Trey Lance, I think.
Yeah,
exact
maybe.
Same career stats.
Maybe more. Who knows? Coming up, very special guest. Outkick's own Charlie Arnault joins us here on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the Outkick Network.
He has no empathy, heavy dementia, doesn't even know where the hell he is, and thinks the whole world revolves around him. He's literally telling people who lost their loved ones, who lost their homes, who lost their property, who lost their businesses about a 20-minute kitchen fire. That's a kitchen fire. And this jackass goes on and on and on about a kitchen fire. It wasn't he almost lost his home. I mean, do a little research. A kitchen fire. That's all it is. And this guy has the audacity to go in front of people who lost their island, their city, their homes, their livelihoods, their relatives, and discuss himself. And I can't even, I'm speechless. Every time I see it, I get so pissed off, I can't even tell you. I mean, stupid and arrogant are the worst 2 things a people can have. If you're smart and you're arrogant, you at least know you're arrogant. If you're stupid, like the dude started out last in his class in everything he's ever been. Now let's get that. The dude cheated on his first wife. The dude is stupid. And stupid and arrogant is no way to go through life. It's the deadliest combination. Deadly. Couldn't be a worse combination. And this guy's got it. He's so arrogant and he's so stupid and he's so not out here. And we got to listen to it. We seriously have to listen to this. I thought there was nobody worse that I ever wanted to listen to than George W. Bush. And then Obama came along with his blah, 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 stupid ass stuff. I mean, his idiotic, trying to be on the wall, every wall, trying to be smarter than he is, blah, 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 blah. And now we got this. This is just embarrassing. This just make you mad. This make you mad, and you got to say to yourself, hold the phone, hang on here. This is horrible. This is a horrible human being speaking to people that have lost everything, and this guy is talking about himself, comparing himself. He was so stupid, he stepped off a curb. Now, we're not going to show you the video. He stepped off a curb in front of firefighters in Lahaina, after the biggest wildfire in American history, and jokingly said, oh, the ground's hot. Well, no kidding. They just had the biggest wildfire in American history, you idiot. And he thinks he's being clever, and people guffaw. It's like Peyton Manning. He said, huh. He said, I can't believe that guy's so funny. It is amazing to me. It is astounding to me. It angers me to no end. this jackass, this arrogant fool, gets up there and represents us, and he don't give a rat's double about you or me. Not even kinda. Not even sorta. He don't care about you, me. If he can't promote it, if he can't profit off it, he don't care. It's a career politician, hasn't done a damn thing in his life. I mean, you're sitting there and you've lost everything that you have, and this guy's telling you about, oh, I don't know, a little kitchen fire. Really?
Coming up in an hour, Clay Travis will join us here on Hot Mic with Hunter Withrow across the Outkick Network. We've got Florida and Utah coming up tomorrow night. Chad, you glued to that? You have softball?
Florida, Utah.
I can't wait to watch this game.
Thank God. No softball, Hutton. All of Labor Day weekend. My softball duties were over last night. They will not resume until a practice, I think, next Tuesday.
Do you?
So I got all Labor Day weekend to watch football. I'm glued in on that. And I'm back and forth between Florida, Utah, Nebraska, Minnesota. My wife Angie from Nebraska, a big Husker fan, one TV will be stuck on Nebraska the whole time. I will be going back and forth between different floors. Only 2 floors in my house. I'm not Clay Travis. I don't have 6. But I will be going back from the second to the first floor to watch both games.
You're not taking an elevator to get to that.
There's no elevator.
Got you.
Yeah, no escalator either. Donald Trump style going up to the Trump Tower. Like at Clay's house. But I'll be going back and forth between those 2 games for sure.
Eric Gilbert caught on video. Speaking
of the Huskers.
Yeah, breaking in to a vape shop in what looks to be a liquor store. So he's, speaking of transfers, formerly of a Georgia Bulldog and LSU Tiger, now at Nebraska. And, Chad, he's just destroying, and you'll see in a moment on the video, gets into the vape shop and just tears apart the place.
It's very odd.
You said yesterday, like, you picked Nebraska and you on the spread, and you're like, I'm not so sure anymore, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, he's got a T-shirt covering his face. There's cops waiting on him. It looks like by the time he gets done, he is robbing some things. He's destroying other things. Look, it looks like someone who's an extremely troubled person.
Yes.
I mean, my first thought is I think it was $1,600 and some dollars worth of damage that I think was done total. And I'm thinking, how hard is it not to go by yourself and rob a vape shop? And also, NIL exists now, and I think Nebraska's a pretty big player in NIL. You couldn't get $1,600 just by playing football. I don't think money's an issue now in college football at big-time levels. So this seems to strike me more as a kid that's been to multiple places for a good reason because he's having some difficulties. And that when I watch that video, that's the first thing that I think. I'm like, this guy's not right, and I hope he gets help that he needs. And I'm not sure that being a part of a football program, there's times where being a part of a football program will help someone, and you need to hold on to them so you can oversee everything they're doing and give them some structure. There's other times where they may need something bigger than football and legitimate help, and that may be where Eric Gilbert is. I don't know. I've not heard the motive behind this. I'm not sure what all is going on.
So, but this ties in to what Deion Sanders is blasting the NCAA over with Tyler Brown, offensive lineman, offensive guard, who's denied immediate eligibility. In this case, you've got Eric Gilbert, who's also waiting on this because he's been at Georgia, then LSU, and now at Nebraska. If he's citing mental health, I mean, this is the example of it, but he doesn't need to be playing on Saturdays. He needs more help than that based on what's going on off the field for him. He's troubled.
Yeah, he's troubled, and that video shows that for sure. Really sad to watch it. Not feeling as great about my Nebraska pick after something like that, but I think Matt Rule, who, by the way, immediately fired, I think it was a tight ends coach who got a DUI during fall camp and replaced him with a graduate assistant that was on staff. So Matt Rule's probably going to treat disciplinary things a little bit different. I would expect something really bad happening to Eric Gilbert here.
Well, and Matt Rule has said, and he was forthcoming, he said, hey, we're going to help him through some of his issues he's dealing with in his life. We've been really proud of the job he had done in the spring and the summer, but to be honest, during camp, he said he's had some struggles. He's working to overcome them. So there's something behind the scenes that, you're right, Rule's not going to just let him back onto the field immediately if the NCAA does, but there's no reason they should until they assess this and what's going on.
Yep.
Charlie Arnault, very special guest to Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow. Outkick is where you can find her. Outkick on Fox, a big success this past Sunday night. Charlie, welcome.
Thank you. You have a very special and very sweaty Charlie Arnold, because I was just locked outside of my building for the past 15 minutes.
How did this occur?
Okay, so we have a rooftop on my building that is just now like getting furnished, so it's more usable. It was more of just kind of like a bare rooftop for a bit with like all of the pipes and the this and that. So I was going to go check it out with my dog, and I went up there just to see what the progress was. And I just went, me and my dog, thinking that once I went up, I would be able to come down. Well, no, it locks you out. Like they haven't done the double lock mechanism now where you can get in and out. So I was just stuck out there and was waiting. And finally a construction worker or one of the building attendants came up and saved me.
This sounds like my hell, being locked out in the heat with nothing to save you from the sun.
It's
and
like
the
the
sweat.
Hangover.
And it's the plot from The Hangover when they put him on the mattress on the roof, and that's when they had to find their buddy in the Vegas heat.
Yeah, well, it kind of reminds me of the poor drivers who were stuck in Nevada for hours because of the protesters, the climate protesters on their way to Burning Man. So
you kindred spirits, you and those
we
drivers.
are kindred, except I'm not going to Burning Man, which is a good thing because I don't.
Well, thanks for the hustle to come back and join us on the show.
Is there a lot of sweat at Burning Man also? I picture Burning Man being a very sweaty experience.
So honestly, I've never been. I always told myself that I was going to go just for the experience, because I feel like there's certain things in life where you go just to say you've gone, right? I have friends who have gone to Burning Man. I have all different types of friends, and there are many different experiences you can have at Burning Man. So it depends how much money you have, how much you want to spend. One way of doing it is the ultra posh luxe experience, where you have, an RV and you've got a full-time chef on hand. You've got your own DJ on your campsite. Like that actually exists. There are camps that exist like that. Then there's the others who, probably more just like the rest of us, who pitch a tent and they've got their little bicycle to get around. And then they've got their stash of whatever food they decide to bring. But also Burning Man is based on the barter system. There's no money exchange at all throughout Burning Man. So you could technically, and there's also a rule, you can't turn anyone away. Like it's kind of a community type feel. I don't know how much it's totally upheld, but you could technically, if you're one of like the poor people, go to one of the rich sites and be like, hey, can I get some of your delicious grilled steak? And, in theory, they would probably, if they abide by the rules, they would say yes.
To me, this leads to prostitution all across Burning Man. Like I feel like that's got to be the assumption, right? Hey, I don't have any money, but what do you want for a spot in this tent over here?
What do you want for this filet?
Yes.
Oh, for sure. And I'm sure that a lot of the like more nicely run camps probably are run by men, right? They probably have girls included, but I'm sure if an attractive woman approached and said, hey, can I join you for dinner? Or can I, have a drink, or who knows what other substances a lot of these people are taking part in. I'm sure there's an arrangement that can be worked out in more ways than one.
Please, Charlie, at some point, go to one of the posh spots at Burning Man and just file a report for Outkick. Yeah. We can watch it on the Outkick show on Fox News, but I think a man on the street segment at Burning Man, but also just a full video documentary of your experience at Burning Man. Some of these like really hot music festivals sound like absolute hell to me, but if you gave me the option to go into an RV and just sit in the AC for 20 minutes at a time to get a little bit of AC and go back to it, I'd love it.
Yeah, well, especially also because in Burning Man, it's in the middle of the desert. There's tons of dust storms. So like if the wind starts acting up, the dust apparently just flies and you're disgustingly sweaty and it sticks to you. You stink. I mean, And there are no, I actually, I don't know that for a fact. I don't know if there's like a shower area, but obviously if you have one of the private RVs or setups, you have your own showers. But you know what? That should be next year. I should ask for Outkick to send me to Burning Man for, of course, educational purposes only,
Right.
Yep.
to come back and report. And
You
then
can
I'll have
use-
more for you.
You can use the bus that Clay used for Outkick the Tailgate a couple of years ago.
That thing's probably just sitting around rotting in a shop somewhere right now. Just take that
I wonder
out to the
where that
desert.
is.
Yeah. Last time we saw it had a flat tire on the side of the interstate.
Yeah,
They had to tow
which
it
led
to
to some
the,
funny posts from
They
people that
had
saw
to
it on the
tow it
interstate.
to the.
It was in Charlotte, I think, is where it was
Yeah,
based.
it was based in Charlotte. I think we're in College Station that weekend.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
And
wow.
they towed the bus for the backdrop all the way to College Station because of the tire issue. Yeah.
That's a story.
So you could get that at Burning Man.
Yeah,
Speaking
that
of
sounds-
tailgate.
Yeah, so college football is here, Charlie, which gets
Yeah.
people thinking about tailgates, without a doubt. What is the best tailgate food? I know David Hookstead wrote a big opinion piece and advice for people on what they should and should not do at a tailgate. If I say tailgate, what is the word association food that you immediately think about with the tailgate?
Hamburgers and hot dogs, cheeseburgers specifically. Yeah.
Anything,
I'm all about the grill. Because here's the thing. I think a lot of people, they don't, well, there's two ways of thinking. One is there are the people that just do all of these chips and dips and little types of sides without the main entrees, which that doesn't do it for me. Like I want to eat something of substance and then also have like my little snacks on the side. Now there's also the other alternative that could occur. And I've actually had this happen when men are in charge of the tailgate, and that's where they buy a bunch of meat, but then they have no side dishes. And I'm like, did no one think that we would want like anything with this? We just want to eat like the hot dog and that's it. And like, so I feel like there's some planning that needs to go in. You have to have the whole spread. You have to do the entrees, the meats, the protein, but then you also should do the chips and dip. I would say you could do some potato salad, something like that. You could do a pasta salad.
Pasta salad's so good.
There should definitely be a dessert of some kind because also I cannot be satisfied at the end of a meal if there's nothing sweet. So like Rice Krispie treats, you could do, like I said, cookies, cupcakes, like maybe get very festive, like decorate the cupcakes according to which team you're rooting for. But and then of course drinks, you can't forget beer. Right? Beer has to be involved.
I was going to say beer is the entree and the sides are the burgers. Or you didn't mention wings. Are you not big on wings?
No, I'm huge on wings. My only thing is I don't like cold wings. Like I like fresh hot wings. So if there's a way of like putting those on the grill and making them on the spot, but if you're just getting them from, let's say like a Publix or something like that, and then bringing them, probably would pass. I'd rather have just like a cheeseburger or a hot dog on the grill.
Yeah, so much is logistics, and not just logistics of where your tailgate's located, logistics of hand to mouth and ease of cleanup and everything else. Chicken wings at a tailgate outside are not appetizing to me. Chicken wings while I'm at home watching the game sounds great with the dip and everything else, blue cheese, ranch, whatever you prefer. I like that, but at a tailgate, not as good. And you bring up a great point about men versus women and their plates at a tailgate. If you look at every man at a tailgate, he has hamburger, hot dog, baked beans. That's the plate that he's going to have. Women will have like a little portion of every single thing that it's at that tailgate, and I'm convinced is at every tailgate around them. I feel like women get every side dish from every tailgate within 100 yards of them. That's how advanced their plate looks every time, Charlie.
Well, it's kind of a pitching method, right? You organize, you get everyone on board. What are you bringing? What are you bringing? What should I bring? So there's no repeats, because that's the worst is when everyone brings the same thing and you just have 18 different varieties of pasta salads. So yeah, it's a coordinated effort, but like you said with the wings, good point, because also speaking to women, we have our makeup done, and for some of the really hardcore fans, they maybe have face paint on. So eating wings might be a little bit of an issue if you've got stuff going on.
Chad, maybe the first ever tailgate for volleyball is happening in Nebraska. 90,000.
Wow.
90,000 people attending a volleyball day. There's kind of volleyball day at Nebraska. I don't know how many games are taking place. I don't even know who Nebraska is playing, but they've got 90,000 fans going to Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska for women's volleyball. This is really cool. I mean, the
It's
Nebraska is able to pull this off. I know volleyball is huge in that state and with that university, but a big moment for women's sports, Charlie.
Yeah, I think this is awesome. I mean, it reminds me of like they have the big beach volleyball tournament on Manhattan Beach, and they just get tons of people coming out to watch that. Volleyball is such a fun sport to watch, and obviously, it being such a big sport in the state, I think that's amazing. I think that anything you can do to get people to come together and have a good time to support women's sports, I'm all about. But I was a volleyball player, so I'm especially on board with this. And just a little aside, the volleyball tournaments, we would also have quite the spread in between games.
Nice.
Like we would eat between each game like we've never eaten before. So, and you're playing like 4 or 5 games a day in those tournaments. So there was a lot of calories being consumed.
The beauty of competitive athletics is when you can eat as much and
And
whatever
not
you
worry
want
about it,
and not
yeah.
worry about gaining an ounce because you're expending so much throughout the day.
Those were the days.
Hey, keep the keys with you. Go through doors that have an ability to open from the other side, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Thank you so much for the sage advice. I will keep
Yes.
all of those points in mind.
Yes.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks,
Charlie
Charlie.
Arnold, Outkick host, new show coming your way next month, early September for Charlie. Looking forward to that. Plus,
The
congrats
debut
on
of
the
Outkick
on Fox. Yeah,
Outkick on Fox Sunday night at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central.
coming up, primary complaint, and then news with Joe Burrow, Bailey Zappi, what's going on with Mac Jones in New England. A lot of NFL headlines. Stay with us. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the Outkick Network.
GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy thinks that all voters should be able to pass a civics test, so I'm here on Broadway to see how we're doing. Can you name 3 cabinet positions?
Oh, Secretary of State.
Yep.
Secretary of Labor.
Yep.
And we'll go the Secretary of Education.
Correct. What is the capital of Tennessee?
That one. I have no idea. Tallahassee.
Tallahassee.
No,
that's
Florida.
That's
yeah.
Florida. That's Florida.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
No.
Do you know the capital of Tennessee? What the hell? These people don't even like me.
All right, I'll give you a hint. You're standing in it. How many U.S. senators are there?
Way too many.
Well, they're way too old, I'll tell you that.
Not enough to do the job right, that's for sure.
If something bad happens to the president, who takes over?
The vice president.
Who is our vice president right now?
What does it start with? What's the first letter start with?
K.
Not sure. I don't know.
Okay. When was the Constitution written?
1976.
1787. How many amendments does the Constitution have?
Sad.
32.
27. How many U.S. senators are there?
Damn. More than 50,
That's true, yes.
because there's 50 states. There you go.
And how many senators are from each state?
2.
So how many is that?
100.
There you go. It's just basic math. You got it.
I have to really think.
What ocean is on the east coast of the United States?
Pacific?
East Coast.
Atlantic then.
There you go. If something bad happens to the president and the vice president, who takes over?
First one up from Congress?
And who is that?
Some old man.
Do you know what ocean is on the east coast of the United States?
Pacific?
Atlantic, sorry. Wait. What is the capital of Tennessee? Nashville. It's Nashville, guys. How many years do we elect a senator for?
4.
6. What about a congressman?
That's 4.
2.
It's just a trick question. So.
Before he was president, Eisenhower was a general in what war?
World War II. He commanded Operation Overlord and D-Day invasion.
Correct. When was the Constitution written? Before that.
1854.
Before that.
1818.
Before that?
1777.
After that?
1789.
Before that?
1784.
After that?
1785.
After that?
1786.
After that?
1777.
After that? You were so close.
1778.
No.
Kanye West, Kanye 2024, big time. I wrote him in, West Virginia, put him on the ballot.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? So proudly we hail, so.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. They're putting up some of the fall merch and fall flavors, Chad, out there. Soon it'll be your eggnog, just around the corner.
For the first time of the season, I say the season, half joking.
'Tis the season.
I had pumpkin spice
Oh, no.
yesterday. I did. What is today? This was August 29th.
With your latte?
August 29th. I caved
Oh.
and I got a pumpkin spice, iced pumpkin spice latte yesterday. And there is something about that flavor when it hits. It just tastes like football. It tastes like football every time. Two things that will get me going for football season. Pumpkin spice lattes and the first sip, usually in the morning, of some sort of bourbon or Tennessee-based whiskey and cola.
Okay.
Like if I don't ever drink those anymore, but if I had like a Coke, a Jack and Coke, or any whiskey, George Dickel
That
and
tastes
Coke.
like football.
If I taste any of that, I'm like, man, damn, it's 2002, and I'm getting ready for Tennessee LSU at night at Neyland. That's
was
the
Goldschlager
immediate
for
thought that I have. Hutton has to vomit out gold flakes
Yes.
for him to feel like football season.
Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow
Goldschlager.
across the Outkick Network. Our goal to get you to 6 o'clock Eastern and get you through your workday.
There was
our goal too.
You brought up Goldschlager. There was the latest season of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, one of the greatest comedies of our time. They had a thing about premium products, and they were trying to come up with a premium brand.
Yeah.
And they were at the bar posing the question. And when you think premium liquor, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And everyone in unison said Goldschlager. It's got gold in the drink, so it's premium.
I think your pumpkin spice
We were
latte
duped by that one.
for football season, you need to go glamp with Charlie at Burning Man.
I could do that. I don't know
Fire
how
up the grill.
I don't know how I would do with the barter system. I think Charlie would do better.
Well, you
with
would be
the
grilling the
bartering.
fillets, though.
I wouldn't eat. Like, I would just starve. Charlie would get anything that she wanted with the barter system or just asking, and guys would probably hand it over to her.
Yeah.
She'd get the fillet for free. I would starve. No one would hand me a thing if I was walking around asking, hey, I've got these 2 Kleenexes and two things of chapstick. Would you like to trade? Can you trade me something to eat?
That is something that Chad always has is chapstick.
Anyone can always. I've got a buddy who will always. I've usually got a spare one, and every time around, he's like, "Withrow, chapstick, please." He'll just make the little hand signal for chapstick, knowing I have it, and I'll hand
Are you
it to
cool
him.
with other people using your chapstick?
I'm cool with this guy using my chapstick. I wouldn't be cool with any stranger.
It's not me.
I'd let you
Who
use
is it
my
in this
chapstick.
room? Is it Dylan? Is it Davey?
I wouldn't let Davey use my chapstick. I'd probably be okay with Albanese.
There's a rating system.
I don't know about Dylan. Dylan's 50-50
Yeah.
on the chapstick. Tyler, yes. Brooke, yes. Hutton, yes. Davey, no.
No. I can imagine that really pisses Davey off. He's pissed off for greatness.
I don't think Davey cares.
It's time to air our top grievance of the week. It is time for primary complaint. And our start, guys, my primary complaint this week, parking garages. And not the simple concept of that, just the idea that as I feel like we've grown into a bigger car. I'm driving an SUV. I'm driving an Explorer. Chad's got a boat now. That's what I refer to as with this new truck.
Boats to come. So I got the truck now. Boat's going to come next month.
And Chad can relate to this now. He goes from car to truck. There are no parking garages that are made with parking spaces available for the size car that America is now driving. Even with my mid-size SUV, it's difficult to find a spot because the boat/truck that's parked in the spot next to mine is not able to stay within the lines that are painted because apparently they think everyone now has some electric car, and it's just not that simple. I want to get back to the day where we downsize the amount of cars that could be in a garage and actually allow the cars that are in that garage to park without blocking someone in, or, I mean, God forbid we have a parking space where I can open the door without having to shimmy my way out and end up with crap all over me instead of denting the door next to mine. That's my primary complaint.
Hutton, I will never park my boat next to your car. This I vow to you.
Have
I'm
you
gonna
had
give
this
you as much
issue yet?
space as problem. Oh, of course. I should go out there right now and take a picture of how snug I am. I'm perfectly in the middle of the space in our downtown Nashville lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is an inch and a half on either side of
Now,
my truck, and that's just perfectly
but
in the
in the
middle
garage,
for me.
once you're parked, you can't back out because there's going to be another car behind you.
Oh, no.
And the size of your truck, you're not going to be able to back out.
I'm not looking forward to parking garage day with the truck. That's for sure. I like to park outdoors right now when at all possible.
Outdoorsman.
Yeah. I'm a real
Pickup
outdoorsman.
man.
I'm
A
basically
pickup man, Chad Withrow.
I bought a truck and I'm basically Taylor Sheridan now. I'm about to write the Yellowstone sequel, and this one will not involve Matthew McConaughey, but it will involve Sam Elliott, back from the dead. Spoiler alert for 1883. My primary complaint goes to some woman who wrote a book. I'm not going to promote this book that she wrote because, quite frankly, it sounds terrible. It's someone who was a staff writer on the popular 90s, early aughts sitcom. You may have heard of it by the name of Friends on NBC. It was a slightly popular and successful show. This woman wrote a book, and I got this, a tweet from, or an X post, I should say, from Entertainment Weekly, quoting her in the book, where she is complaining about the cast members of Friends not liking her jokes and deliberately tanking her jokes. Here's the quote. They all knew how to get a laugh, but if they didn't like a joke, they seemed to deliberately tank it, knowing we'd just rewrite it. Dozens of good jokes would get thrown out just because one of them had mumbled the line through a mouthful of bacon when they were reading it. Everyone would sit around Monica and Chandler's apartment to discuss the script. This was the actors' first opportunity to voice their opinions, which they did vociferously. Here's my issue with this woman, okay? It is your job to write. These jokes are not the most mind-blowing jokes of all time. You could probably write a joke that you gave Chandler 7 different ways. And if Chandler, played by Matthew Perry, doesn't like the first joke that you wrote for him, write another one. And you know who also may know the character of Chandler better than anyone else, better than you even, is Chandler, Matthew Perry. That show was wildly successful. The finished product was good. Why are you complaining about the process? Maybe your joke sucked. Maybe they knew it, because whatever we saw on Thursday nights on NBC was hilarious. So good job writing the show with the finished product, and thank you to the cast members who helped you through that process of finding the jokes that actually worked. This is my primary complaint. Do not buy or read this book. Thank you.
Interesting. Have you ever gone back and watched Friends without a laugh track?
I think if you do that with any sitcom, it's horrible.
It would tank it. One of the things, I don't know if you ever saw this, I wanted to point out that this is not true, but it would always go around on social media saying, yeah, most laugh tracks were filmed in the 50s, so whenever you listen to that, you're listening to the people that are all now dead. So, but that's not true. So that's I'm putting that one down.
They have new laugh tracks now.
Yeah, they continued. Now there are a lot.
Freshen it up.
There are a lot that were used in the 80s that I believe they still kind of carry over, but they will freshen it up for different things. But yeah, the 90s were the best time in sitcoms. I mean, you got Seinfeld, Friends, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Frasier's coming back this fall. I'm serious. On Paramount Plus, they're bringing Frasier back with Kelsey Grammer as a sitcom.
Isn't the dad, like, he's got to be gone by this
I
point,
think.
right?
Well, I think I read where David Hyde Pierce isn't on the show, and I'm thinking that's a dude who won every Emmy when he was on the show for Best Supporting Actor. How can you have a Frasier without him on the show?
That'd be rough. I don't know. I might check it out. But guys, my primary complaint this week is being sold a membership to a place that I am already a member. Around this time last week, I was sitting in this chair. My phone rang, did not recognize the phone number. And then after a segment, I checked my voicemail, and they're like, hey, we're just calling to see if you'd like to buy a gym membership. And I'm like, well, seeing as I was literally in there 3 days ago and have been a member for multiple years now, I think I'm going to pass. I don't know how they don't have this in their system. Now, again, I've had issues with this gym. Like, they can't even alert me if they're going to close down. But the fact that I am already a paying customer and then you solicit me to give you money for something that I'm already paying for just doesn't bode well with me. And that's my primary complaint.
Yeah, I don't know why they're they're just going through the email bank or the phone bank, right? They're not actually.
Yeah, it had to be some new guy that's not sure what he's doing, and he's just blowing up anyone and everyone. And I just happened to be one of the unlucky people that received a phone call.
I get a call from the same number twice a day, every day.
Really?
Same town,
block the number.
same
Can your
small
phone block the
town.
number, the iPhone 6?
Probably not. I don't even know that I've tried to do it. It's just almost comical now because I like to look down. Oh, that's the number that called me yesterday.
That's
at this
Orwan
time.
calling you.
Yes. I answer the phone, and it's, I one time mistakenly answered because I thought, oh, this is a small town in Tennessee that's not the one that normally calls me. Let me answer this one. And sure enough, it was some, realtor saying that they're going to buy my house for twice of what it's worth or something like that.
And you said okay, and then they said we're just
Well,
kidding.
I always get the calls or the emails, and I just immediately come back with, here's how much it would cost. And I give them a huge number, and I never get a response back.
Fun thing I do on that. So my dad and I have the same name, and he owns property, and so they actually call me thinking it's mine, and I just throw out astronomical numbers, just seeing if they'll ever buy it.
What if they took the offer, and you had to explain to your dad?
I guess my
that,
dad's getting $4 million.
Yeah, I sold your house. Pack up, Mom. You guys are moving. I know the family house. You hope to have grandkids here one day, but now you're going to move because I just sold it for $4 million. Congrats.
Move out.
He would take that.
Oh, look, the number's calling right now. Scam likely. Let me see if I can. All it gives me is the option to remind me. Once I miss it, I could probably block it.
Yeah, you should block that number.
Chad just has that saved as my number. I'm just calling him right now.
Yeah. A scam. I've got Davey saved as scam likely in my phone because every time he calls, it's likely a scam.
Not a scam. Free bar tabs. And it's taking place in Milwaukee. Jack's American Pub. You've got Green Bay fans who are bitter about Aaron Rodgers bolting with the Jets, and he's new and revitalized and energized, and he looks 5 years younger than he did last year, and he's expected to go win a Super Bowl. There's an offer about a free bar tab, pledging to cover customers' bar tabs when Rodgers and the Jets lose this season. So you show up, you order, you're rooting against Rodgers, and if they lose, you get your drinks covered. And the stipulation is you have to open the tab 15 minutes before kickoff. The promotion does not include food, but Chad, the offer applies if Rodgers is starting and if the Jets don't coincide with the Packers game, because they're not going to have the Jets on the screen if the Packers are playing. But the Jets are going to be playing a lot of primetime matchups. I love this. And, I mean, based on the AFC, they may have a couple bar tabs for free.
Don't they open on Monday Night Football against the Bills?
They do.
They do, yeah.
That is going to be a big night for that bar because that is a likely loss, I would say, right? Good chance that they lose, especially early on.
Only 4 games where they overlap.
That would be one that we should make a road trip, take a road trip out and then do it. Jack's American Pub. What a strong name for a bar in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We should do the show there that Monday and stick around and have all of our drinks paid for afterwards. I wonder if there's got to also be a stipulation on, like, you get well drinks. Like, I don't know if you can get, like, high-end, top-shelf stuff.
It just, I mean, they're expecting the Jets to win. I mean, they want you to go and spend whatever you want, so they don't want you to go cheap.
So, I mean, I was looking at the schedule. So we just mentioned Buffalo. You think they're gonna beat Buffalo week 1?
Toss-up.
Yeah. Well, then week 4, they play the Chiefs on Sunday night. That game is at MetLife.
Well, that'll be another popular one. The primetime games they're in, that don't coincide with Packers games will be big nights for them.
What else is on their schedule?
Well, they got the Eagles.
Eagles, Chargers.
Yeah, they got Chargers on Monday Night Football.
Of course, they've got their division games twice. Miami's on the schedule, of course. With
Houston, I wouldn't pick the Texans game.
Raiders is a Sunday night game.
Unless you just really like Jack's American.
But the Texans game may be overlapping with the Green Bay game that week, right? That might be one of the 4 that no one cares to watch on prime time.
That's a break for everyone, if that's the case.
That's right. Coming up, back to the NFL. Joe Burrow is back on the field. We'll discuss that and what's surprising about that happened or didn't happen off the field. Details there, plus what New England is doing at quarterback and why it is clear they're sending a message about Mac Jones. All of that straight ahead, plus Clay Travis coming up in 25 minutes. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the Outkick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live.
Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown.
People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the Outkick Network. That includes our YouTube channel. We are up live and running. You can join us there. You can subscribe to the channel if you'd like. Give us a thumbs up. Join Chad in the chat.
It's been a robust YouTube chat today. Very good.
Robust.
Lots of contribution.
I don't think you've ever described the
It's robust.
chat as.
It's a robust chat.
We've got Clay Travis coming up in 20 minutes. A lot to discuss with him, including some of his blood bank guarantees for college football, which includes LSU and Florida State. I'm curious where he's going there and what he's guaranteeing with DraftKings Sportsbook. That'll be great. And a bit later, Bernard Pollard will join the show. That is coming up in about an hour and 15 minutes from right now. Chad, the news yesterday, which was a bit surprising, the Patriots electing to release Bailey Zappi, who started a handful of games for New England a year ago whenever Mac Jones went down with, a foot injury, I believe. And then when Jones was able to come back, or at least based on the timetable that was out there, it was at least reporters a bit unsure about which way they would go. Of course, Jones returned, but it was a sloppy offense that was led by a special teams coach and a defensive-minded coach, and Belichick chose to go that way. Now they have Bill O'Brien. And by electing to waive Malik Cunningham and Bailey Zappi, leaving just one quarterback on the active roster, they've brought both players back to the practice squad today. But I think that move sends a clear message about the Patriots' offense and whose team this is within that locker room. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No one's looking at Zappi wondering if Belichick's favorite quarterback is actually the backup quarterback. And no one's asking if Mac Jones is the leader, because they're telling you he is by making this move. He wants more control of the offense. He wants more input. He wants to be more vocal. He wants to be more accountable and hold players accountable. This is the message that he can do just that. And it's also a clear indication that this is Bill O'Brien's offensive team, period. Mac Jones is going to run the O'Brien system. They're not going to figure out whose quarterback is better and if Zappi actually gives them a better chance to win. This is put up or shut up time for Mac Jones. And it's time to take him off the leash in year 3 after making a huge mistake last year with who you had coaching him behind the scenes and calling plays on game day. It's still an offense that's going through the run, but it's got to be more play action, and it's got to rely more on the arm of Mac Jones, and that's what Bill O'Brien was brought there to do, and that's why they made the moves they did. There's no hesitation now in saying, do they really like Mac Jones? The answer is yes, and they showed us just that, even though Belichick doesn't like to say things definitively. That was a definitive move for me, even though they've got Zappi back on the practice squad.
This is also the only move they could make right now. And I'm not talking about just the one quarterback thing. Just making Mac Jones the guy and making him feel like he's the guy. And he's got some sort of autonomy over the offense, or at least a partnership with Bill O'Brien. There's no other way to go. There's no, let's make it a competition with him and Bailey Zappi, or maybe Malik Cunningham could be the guy.
Well, there's no bad first half where Zappi's starting the second half. I mean, he could, but he's going to be elevated to the main. Again, he's a practice squad player today. He's not an active roster player. That sends a tone, that sets a tone and sends a message.
Well, and what I mean by that is I don't know that Mac Jones is the guy that's going to get the Patriots back to being the Patriots.
Right, I agree.
That we've seen before. But I definitely know those other guys aren't either. And where you are right now, until you can find out for sure, you need to be doing this. This is the guy that you invested in with a first-round pick, and now you've reinvested in by bringing Bill O'Brien back. So the way to go is with him and letting him know that he's the guy. And he's got full say over the future of his career in New England and no one else. This is the proper play, to give this offense to him and give him a shot to run it and show that he's the guy long-term for New England. I don't know that he is, but I definitely know the way not to go about this is to act like there's some sort of competition with where he is and what he's doing. Let him believe it's his team, because it should be his team, and then see how it goes.
But whatever they did last year didn't send that same message.
No,
tone,
it did not at all.
And that's what's bizarre about it and the way they went about it. And in having Tom Curran and others on this offseason on the show and just straight up asking the best guys that are covering that team, hey, is there something behind the scenes between Belichick and Robert Kraft? Is there a message sent that you've got to get out of the way of Mac Jones because Bill O'Brien's available. He's right for this job. We're bringing him back. Is he on the hot seat or is he not? It's bizarre to even bring that up with Belichick, but it was strange the way they went about structuring the offense and trying to bring Mac Jones along in the offense based on who was coaching him. Weird. When McDaniels left, they didn't replace him with another offensive guy, and you would do that for your franchise quarterback.
It's not been a very good tenure.
No.
Not good
and
at all.
It's still a team that's built on the run and their defense, but they've enhanced their passing game, and it's just time to figure it out with Jones, period.
It's time for Bill Belichick to figure it out. And part of figuring it out is bringing back Bill O'Brien and having a legitimate offensive coordinator.
Last year, though, didn't they start like 5-2 or something? I mean, they came out and played very well, and they're kind of a sleeper team, and then the wheels fell off. But then Bailey Zappi came in and had a bit of a controversy over a 2 or 3 week span. Chad, no controversy on who's better at quarterback in Cincinnati. You've got Joe Burrow, Trevor Siemian's the backup. And the offense apparently, whenever Burrow wasn't in there during practices, was just lost. Well, Burrow's back. He's returned to Cincinnati's practice for the first time since July 27th when he injured his calf. When he went down, it didn't look good, just watching him hit the turf. And we didn't know the timetable because they kept saying, like, hey, it's to be determined, it's day-to-day, whatever they wanted to put out there. He's back right after cuts are made, the 53's out there. They have their team ready to go. They open the season a week from this Sunday against the Cleveland Browns. Joe Burrow's going to be out there. Burrow's back. He's not missing a game as he goes head-to-head with Deshaun Watson.
Burrow's almost the forgotten guy a little bit in the AFC, which is just crazy to say because of his greatness early on. But that's just a testament to how many great quarterbacks we're talking about in the conference. And now with Aaron Rodgers, now you can make an argument everyone's the forgotten man in the AFC because Aaron Rodgers has gotten the bulk of the attention and the limelight throughout this offseason and training camp. But you hear a lot about Mahomes, rightfully so, with the defending Super Bowl champion, just on the show, quarterback also. I feel like Joe Burrow is a little bit lost in the shuffle, not for anything that he's done. He's been great throughout his tenure, but the expectation that he's going to be really good again, now mixed with him coming off this injury, it does feel like, I don't know that I would say anybody's sleeping on him, but maybe we're not talking about that Cincinnati team and Joe Burrow as much, and that's probably the way he and that team won it, based on everyone talking about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers.
You know what else this does, though? I'm surprised about what didn't happen during this downtime when he's rehabbing the contract. And there's some speculation that this was going to be a slow play for him getting back because of the contract talks. That ends after today's news that he's back on the practice field, and he's not – maybe they're in a great spot and they're about to announce it, but he's back on the practice field and he doesn't have the highest paid contract in NFL history. Justin Herbert still holds that currently. Burrow's about to become the highest paid player in the history of the sport, and he's going to get upwards of $53, $54 million guaranteed per season. That's the biggest surprise, is that the contract isn't done as they have the deadline for 53. Do they get it done in the next week before game week against Cleveland? Maybe. And if so, you have the fully guaranteed money with Deshaun Watson going head-to-head with the highest paid player in the NFL annually. That would be Joe Burrow.
And it feels like...
Are you surprised the contract's not done like Justin Herbert? Because I felt like you're waiting on Herbert and then you go above that. Herbert was waiting on... you had Hurts right before that.
Hurts in order. Hurts, Herbert, and now Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's already done, and they're just waiting to announce it. That maybe this was part of what was going on then, and we're going to get something announced right before the season kicks off on the extension. Now, if it goes into the season and there's no announcement, that does surprise me a little bit. But it seems to me like they're probably done with it, and it's just a matter of time that they're going to announce it.
Justin Jefferson also in contract negotiations with Minnesota, and he's been out practicing, of course, throughout the entire camp. Nearly had a 2,000-yard season. No receiver's ever done that. Best top of the game in the league. And the Vikings are hopeful that they get something done prior to going into week 1 preparations. And they're ready to break the bank for him. Top priority is the way it was described. Their general manager, I don't want to be the Vikings GM without that guy on our team. So it's a high priority. We've got to make sure we do that in order so we can get it done, obviously given all of our other decisions that we have to make.
Of the quarterback receiver responsibility for success balance in the league, when you look at a team, there's not one that's more different than in Minnesota, where Kirk Cousins is given less credit than Justin Jefferson for that offense.
I mentioned last year.
I can't think of another quarterback-receiver relationship where we say that.
You have nearly a 2,000-yard receiver. He had 1,800 yards to be exact, 1,809, I believe, 130 receptions. And you don't mention Cousins first. Normally, if you mention Devontae Adams, you're also mentioning Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. If you mention the top wide receivers like A.J. Brown, for instance, in Philadelphia, you're mentioning Hurts, right? You're mentioning Jamar Chase, but Joe Burrow comes first. Patrick Mahomes, of course, and then Kelsey. In Minnesota, the MVP discussion was about the wide receiver, and we've never seen that happen before. Jefferson may just do that based on how excellent he's been, but he's doing it with a quarterback that is fairly good, but viewed as very average, top to bottom. Some would even say mediocre, which isn't fair to Cousins there. Until last year when he actually started winning some primetime games and doing more than just winning at noon on Sunday.
I've got one example, and you tell me what you think. I think there's a little bit of that with Tyreek Hill and Tua.
Yeah, but Tua was in the MVP conversation before the concussion, not Tyreek Hill.
And my point is, you can't be a great receiver in this league without a really good to great quarterback throwing to you. Kirk Cousins is a really good quarterback. I don't think he's great. He's a really good, steady quarterback. He's not given the credit that Justin Jefferson is because Justin Jefferson is great, understandably. But I'm trying to think of the receiver that is given more credit for the team's good offense than the quarterback anywhere else in the league. And I can't think of a single one.
Same.
It is Justin Jefferson over Kirk Cousins.
Was it Odell Beckham over Baker Mayfield?
No.
It was still Baker. Baker was all over. Yeah, he was on all the commercials. Yeah, there's not another good example.
Hit us up in the YouTube chat if you've got a good example. We'll let everyone know if we see a good one.
Chad, Jonathan Taylor remains an Indianapolis Colts running back. He's on the physically unable to perform list. He's not going to be available to play, if at all, until October, which means, if at all, I mean if he's traded, because I think that's the expectation from Taylor's end. The Colts want compensation that they just didn't find. We knew that the Dolphins were negotiating with the Colts. Reports are, Davey and I were chatting, Chad, you too, Jalen Waddle was a part of what the Colts wanted in return if he was going to be traded to Miami. That just doesn't add up. And then the other team that's been reported as interested were the Green Bay Packers, where offers were on the table. I bring this up to just say, keep those two teams in mind as trade discussions can begin again whenever he's healthy. And I think he's healthy now, by the way. Whenever he's, quote-unquote, healthy and off the physically unable to perform list, he's either returning in the backfield based on new money that he's given from Indy, or he's paid to go and be traded somewhere else. About the injury, though, based on the timetable and the structure of recovering from surgery on the ankle, Chad, it was like a 6 to 8 week recovery time is what was projected. Now, can he have a setback? Yes, absolutely. But during OTAs or minicamp, one of those in May, June, and before they had the break in July going into camp, Jonathan Taylor said, and he was happy at the time, hey, I'm ready to go. I'm going to be ready to go at camp because he thinks he's going to get a contract extension. And then all of a sudden he's unhappy. He meets on the bus with Irsay, and it's the exact opposite. He wants a trade. Well, he fails the physical when he shows up for the day one of NFL training camp. He goes on PUP. And I can't help but think that's a stash issue, stashing him away on PUP while you negotiate things as you have what we call a hold-in instead of a hold-out. Players now are just going, like Nick Bosa, going to the facility, but they're not actually practicing on the field. In this case, he's on a list where they're deeming him unavailable, like not healthy, didn't pass the physical from Indy. Why would you attempt to trade for a player that couldn't pass a physical that remained on PUP throughout the entire camp calendar? And why, if you're Indy, do you leave him on PUP if he's healthy, given the fact that you could trade him and say, hey, he's good now. He's passed the physical. I think there's something more there. And I brought it up to begin all the running back conversation, Chad. Based on what he said in June, it didn't add up to where he was at the first or end of July, the first of camp. And that's something that just that they played the game, and then they were going to say that they were going to put him on the non-football injury list. Remember that about the back? They were toying with him.
And then he had to come out and have a tweet saying there's fake news, nothing wrong with my back, never complained about a back problem.
Yeah, because the back, John McClain is right. Like, you can say he's got a back issue, and there's really no way to verify that.
Yeah.
You know? Meanwhile, you've got the surgery rehab and what could take place and when he should be back on the field. So you move him and you say he has a back issue because you can stash him away and put him on a list where he's not active. Coming up, Clay Travis joins us. A lot to discuss. College football is back. We'll get Clay's top picks of the week straight ahead. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the Outkick Network.
Trey Turner he was struggling. They were booing the hell out of him in Philly. On August 4th, his numbers were this: through 108 games. He's hitting 236 with a 289 on base percentage and a 656 OPS with 10 homers and 35 RBIs through 108 games. The Phillies crowd gives him a standing ovation. And it's not a coincidence, guys. To you fans out there, there are players who you can trigger in a really good way. Since then, in the 14 games since then, 370, 414 on base percentage, 117 OPS, 4 homers, 12 RBIs. Okay, not a coincidence. This game, every athlete, every athletic endeavor at this level is about confidence. It's all confidence. And there's a positive, and for anybody that's ever done sports psychology, there's a physical component to emotions. And by that, I mean your body releases different chemicals when you're happy, sad, depressed, pressured, motivated, all those things. And as an athlete, I can speak from personal experience. In October, I was a different human being. And I felt different. And my emotions were different. And my adrenaline was different. And when I pitched in front of big crowds when I pitched in Yankee Stadium, I was different. The crowds create those things, home and away. I remember in 1993 when we were playing the Braves in the playoffs. This was the time of the politically incorrect tomahawk chop that the Atlanta fans were doing. It's kind of when it started. And I remember they were doing that in Game 5. And Terry Mulholland told me before that game, he said, think about this, man. You have a chance to go out there and stop 45,000 people from talking and being emotional. And it led to the 2001 quote when I said, or 2004, when I said, I can't think of anything more enjoyable than making 55,000 people from New York shut up. And that's a sign of respect, by the way, New York fans, always was. But we feed off this stuff, man. The good players do anyway. You know what? I'll say it, and you hear it here first, and I don't want to be first, but Aaron Boone's going to get fired, and that's going to suck because none of this is his fault. And every player in Yankee pinstripes and these guys know Aaron, and I promise you they care very deeply about this guy. He's the kind of guy that warrants that kind of emotion. Every one of them should feel like crap because it's their fault he's going to get fired, period. You couldn't ask for a better, more calming influence. I guarantee you there's no panic in his voice. But correct me if I'm wrong, but as a player, it always felt like Yankee fans wanted to see panic when they were losing. They didn't just want to panic; they wanted the organization to panic, right? You heard, I think earlier, what was it last show? Didn't we, John? We were talking about last show. Trade Judge, trade Cole, blow it up, and it's like, no, number one, and you almost can't, number two. So if you can't fire the players, and firing anybody else would be meaningless to the field results, you got to fire the manager, the coaching staff. And unfortunately, I think that we're about to see that. And that sucks because it's not his fault.
Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow rolls on across the Outkick Network. Glad you're with us. 6th and Peabody location.
We're back, baby.
With Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Clay Travis is back with us, Outkick founder and world traveler based on the book tour. Clay, hope all things are well. And Outkick on Fox, a massive success on Sunday night. Congrats.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to share the interview that you guys, I'm assuming I just got this tweeted out.
Yeah. Clay's tweeting right now at Clay Travis.
Yes, but yeah, look, the book tour was great. Opened number one for nonfiction books. Pretty incredible. Publishers Weekly number one. I think we were number two for the Wall Street Journal. But I went all over the country for that. I've basically been on the road for the last month. And then Sunday we had the first ever Outkick on Fox special, which did fabulously well. Just shy of 1 million people watched it. We nearly, I think the numbers were, we were just a few thousand away from beating the audience for CNN and MSNBC combined, which is always kind of a good way to gauge how your audience does. So the combo of both of those, very cool. And I'm excited to be back home now.
Clay Travis with us on Hot Mike with Hunt and Withrow. So I know you recently found out you like avocado toast. Chad opened the show by saying he's already gone pumpkin spice latte. Which is more
seasonal treat?
Which is more SBAP to you, Clay? Pumpkin spice latte or avocado toast?
So I like avocado toast, and I'm not going to apologize for that. I felt the need to publicly announce that I now eat it, so I didn't want to end up in a viral video or something where somebody caught me unawares and tried to share it. Obviously, having fun with that. I drink coffee, but only drink coffee black. So I think if you're a flavor coffee person, frankly, you're a pansy. So I think you got to go straight black coffee. I'm fine. I actually like iced coffee way more than hot coffee. Personally, I don't know why people want to burn their esophagus to drink coffee. That doesn't make sense to me. So I go iced coffee black would be my preferred choice.
Well, I drive a big truck now, so you can both go to hell. By the way,
pick up,
Clay,
man.
We have.
I'm
a truck guy now.
Pumpkin spice.
Yeah,
you better drive
I'm a truck guy now.
if you're driving around with
I
pumpkin
think
spice
what
latte in your hand.
I think the opposite of DBAP is owning the things that you like that may be a little bit effeminate. And that's being secure enough to just say that like I like pumpkin spice latte and I'm not ashamed to admit it. Clay, I also I want to let you know, I'm not going to show any addresses on here, but we were now receiving mail for you. I don't know if this is fan mail or if it's anthrax riddled, but we got mail here at
Either
6th
way,
and
we're
Peabody
opening it
to you that was handed off by the GM of 6th and Peabody. It feels like a pamphlet. Maybe it's like Thomas Paine's Common Sense.
It's a dossier
that someone wrote to you. I don't think it's a book. It's actually like a handwritten something. So we'll get this to you next time we see it. What do you think about getting mail here at the facility?
I get volumes of mail all over the place. I mean, we have a studio in downtown Nashville that gets mail for me now. We've got a studio in New York City. People just the radio show is huge, and I think Outkick in general continues to grow, and obviously Fox News, big part of that. But people just all want to, and most of it's very nice, but people all want to send me like their manifestos now. So and it's not just that. People also send like really nice things. Like I would do the book signings everywhere, and I would leave with like lots of gifts. Like it's really kind of amazing how friendly and nice people are. When I did the sports books, people wouldn't show up and just give me things like, the thing that I get told most commonly is thank you for what you do. Like nobody ever said that about anything sports related. Like they would say like, oh, I really laughed. That was funny. Like, but people now really are thankful for the job that we do. And so, yeah, I get tons of mail and lots of gifts, and it's all super nice, but something obviously that I'm still getting used to.
Clay, are you okay with me opening this bit of mail for you and telling you what it is? I can tell you it's from someone you don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I mean, don't publicize who they are.
No. I wouldn't do any of that. I'm not going to open it on air or anything. I'm just curious what's in there. I will send a screenshot to you and let you know exactly what it is and get it to you later, but I'm just curious.
Clay,
by the way, this has been going on for a while. Do you remember when they sent me, Laura's here listening, what was it like? I got like tons of Dannon yogurt. Do you remember when they somebody sent me?
No,
somebody
it was
just randomly sent.
Wasn't it
remember the Purity person? Wasn't it like a dairy person that used to bring things for you to the radio station?
Like yogurt. I think it was like yogurt. I think JT called me and he's like, "Hey, somebody just sent like 20 pounds of stuff to you at like to your name at the station. Were you like expecting this?" And I was like, no, I did not send, like 20 pounds of.
It wasn't Mrs. Grissom.
Like, were you okay with?
Clay's like, I've got a great Dannon guy that gets to me for cost, and I haven't sent to the radio station.
Wholesale.
Yes, all those yogurts are mine.
It was sent on ice, right? Because he was like, "Are you okay with me opening it? Like it's not cheap to have shipped to this." And JT called me and he opened it, and it was like 20 pounds of yogurt. I feel like he was like, "Do you want to come pick this up?" And it was like not off. It wasn't like somebody's backyard yogurt company. It was like Dannon yogurts or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, sure," but I still don't know how that happened. Nobody ever, to my knowledge, notified me. And I wonder if they just like somebody just clicked the wrong name on like on a shipping container. Yeah. And some other guy out there was like, "I don't know why my 20 pounds of yogurt didn't show up," but instead, they sent like 20 pounds of Dannon yogurt, I think it was, to like, it wouldn't even fit in the refrigerator, to our old radio station at the Zone.
It's probably still in the break room as we speak right now.
People are going to start sending yogurt now to this location just as a joke for Clay.
Clay, which
I'm not even a big yogurt guy. It's not like I was running around talking about how much I loved yogurt. Like that would have at least made sense because it'd been like, like somebody just thought to do it. Like I don't like yogurt. So it's not like I've ever said anything. I'm not, a fan of big yogurt. It's not like they would have been like, "Oh, we got Clay Travis in the big yogurt company. Let's make sure we reward him for all of his endorsement." Like I don't even eat yogurt, so I have no idea how that happened.
On that note, people can send me as much pumpkin spice as they want. Yeah. They can send it right here to me. You can keep it refrigerated or not. I'll take it gladly.
Clay, of the bets that you've made, I know there are 18 picks right now at Outkick. Your blood bank guarantees, you've got 3 or 4 of them. Which are you most certain of? Which ones should we play at DraftKings Sportsbook?
I like the over on the Kentucky game. I think with their new offensive coordinator and their new quarterback, I think it's, that they want to show that off. It's like if you got a new car, you're going to drive it faster than you might have the old car. So I love the over in the Kentucky Ball State game. I like the under. I know there's been a lot of uncertainty about Cam Rising's health. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game in Utah tomorrow night. I like the under in Florida, Utah. And I like the the under as well in LSU, Florida State. So those are my 3 blood bank guarantees. And then there's 15 additional picks that are up on Outkick right now.
So reports are that they're going with their third-string quarterback, Utah, because Rising's out. Their backup is a redshirt freshman. He was injured in practice. If Billy Napier on the road loses to Utah's third-string quarterback, are we talking about extremely hot seat? Because I don't think after year 2, based on their recruiting class, there's much of a hot seat immediately. There could be at the end of the year based on how things go.
Yeah, I think it depends on how things go in the SEC. I mean, they were fortunate, Florida was, to win that game the last year.
Yeah.
And they have enough big games, whether it's Tennessee, Florida, Georgia. You know, you really just need to win one of those, I would say, sort of quote-unquote big games for Florida next year, and they can feel like the momentum's pretty good. They have a top 5 recruiting class. They're bringing in a lot of talent. I don't think there are very high expectations for Florida. And so, you know, I think if you look at, again, I just off the top of my head, if Florida could win against Georgia, Tennessee, or LSU, any one of those 3 games, the Florida fan base would be pretty happy.
The reverse of last year, really. Yeah, I'm with you.
And they would see that as a sign of growth. So that's kind of how I would assess that.
Clay, where does this weekend rank? Opening weekend of college football, Labor Day weekend, in terms of best sports times of the year, best sports moment for you on your calendar?
Well, it should be always great. I don't think they've got a great collection of games this weekend. I mean, there are lots that I'll sit and watch because I watch college football all weekend long, no matter what. But they should have incredible Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday games. Basically, you could have 5 straight days of incredible primetime games because you don't have any competition with the NFL yet. And so to me, this should be a far bigger weekend this year than it is. But I still love it and am super excited to see how it all plays out.
Is it tongue-in-cheek that you think Milton is in the true running for a Heisman, or have you seen something I haven't within the time frame of Hendon Hooker replacing him?
I am super optimistic that Joe Milton is going to be very good this year. I am. I think there's really good talent at wide receiver. I think that Josh Heupel is going to scheme him to have a great deal of success. I think that he's going to, based on the way he played, I think Tennessee's going to run the football really well. I expect Joe Milton to have 3 or 4 touchdown passes against Virginia. And I think he's going to see the field well. I mean, look, Hendon Hooker, nobody was that excited about him when he got to Tennessee. And Josh Heupel built him into a Heisman Trophy contender quarterback. And remember, Joe Milton beat out Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
And then had a couple of not great games. And then I think he played really well against Clemson last year in the Orange Bowl. He made a couple of really strong throws. And I thought he played fairly well against Virginia. So I think if he can just have a little bit of touch, and I think he's going to be more relaxed, if he comes out and has a couple of really good early games, I think his confidence is going to go through the roof. I think he's going to be fantastic this year.
Yeah, it sets up well if they get through, if they beat down Virginia like they should, based on the spread here, and then go on the road and beat Florida. It sets up middle of October, back-to-back weeks, A&M and Bama, and then really, that's really where he can catch fire with momentum of the voters.
I'll be disappointed if Tennessee, I think the math is it 4-0 with A&M coming to town or 5-0 with, I think it's 5-0 with A&M.
It would be 5-0.
I'll be disappointed if Tennessee's not 5-0 with Texas A&M coming to Knoxville.
Yeah, they're going to be a favorite in every game leading up to that. So,
what would the record have to be for us not to attend that game, Clay?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that's fall break lots of places. So when I look at my calendar, I might actually have substantial beach time going on that week. But I think Tennessee would have to be sitting at what, 3-2.
Okay.
I think for Tennessee fans to really be up in arms over how the season has gone, because that would require 2 upset losses, not just one. Look, I mean, Florida has played very well against Tennessee in the Swamp. So, Tennessee will have to play well to win that game. But I really think Tennessee should be 5-0 favored to beat A&M. And I expect for Tennessee to be 6-0 going to Alabama.
College football is back. Can't wait for kickoff tomorrow night. And then, of course, all things on Saturday. Clay, always enjoy this, man, and have a great rest of the week.
Will do. See y'all.
Thanks, Clay.
Clay Travis.
Enjoy that avocado toast.
Yeah. With a sip of pumpkin spice latte.
Avocado toast is good. It's not something I'd ever really order, but if it's there and there's not a lot of other good options, I'm all about it. I'm not above avocado toast.
I think it's good.
It's not something that I'm
give
drawn
me some
to.
jam and the jam jelly, whatever, in the fridge, and that's all I need.
If it's there, I'd eat it and I'd enjoy it, but it's not something I'm ordering. If I see it on a menu, I'm like, I need that avocado toast in my life this morning.
Love it, like crave avocado. I don't. Like if it's available, I'm eating it, but I'm not thinking about, man, I really want extra of this.
Clay is an iced coffee guy at all times, no hot coffee.
You know why I like hot coffee?
That I don't understand.
I like the smell of coffee. Like the best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup. Like that was my dad had to have his coffee in the morning.
That smell.
You're not getting the smell with iced coffee.
That smell wakes you up.
It didn't wake me up, but once I was up, it was morning.
You would just go over even before you were old enough to drink the coffee and just, hey, Dad, can I get a whiff of that Folgers just to get me going for the day, like a smelling salt?
Coming up, we got a coach from Big Ten and a coach from the SEC. Coaches on the rise and coaches on the slide. That'll be coming up later in the show. Bernard Pollard also will join us coming up in less than an hour here on Hot Mic. And when we come back, Davey Hudson, he's got a fact of the day that will blow your mind. Plus, weird stories. We get weird with Davey next. Hot Mic with Edna Withrow across the Outkick Network.
Hey, Davey Hudson of Outkick here. We are at SEC Media Days 2023 in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to go talk to some players, see what they have to say. What's the best purchase you've made from an NIL deal so far?
Tag watch right here.
Far.
Best purchase? I probably just give it back to my son for real. That's probably my best purchase every time.
Man, pay my truck off. Definitely.
A house. My wife and I bought a house, so that's been huge. Being able to save that money up and buy a house.
This chain here.
The best purchase? I'd probably say helping my mom out with school.
Ooh, the best purchase? Probably the shoes. The shoes I got on right now.
The best purchase I made, the best NIL deal I've had is free steaks from Marksbury Farms, so keep me fed and beefed up.
With it?
Purchase? Probably a new golf bag. Or recently I played TPC Sawgrass this past weekend, and that was from I used that money from a deal I made, so that's up there too.
Probably getting my sister through college, helping my family out a lot. That's probably my best purchase I've done.
Best purchase? Probably my my mom and dad anniversary gift.
The best purchase I've made? I got a yoga mat the other day, and that's helped me a lot. Just flexibility and everything like that, so probably that.
Best purchase? My smile. Best purchase? I would say my best purchase was having my school supply drive.
Landon, what is your favorite sports movie of all time?
Remember the Titans for sure. Sport movie, I say Love and Basketball. That's my favorite.
Got to be Remember the Titans for sure.
Remember the Titans. I mean, it's top movie ever.
Probably Longest Yard.
I'd probably say Like Mike with Bow Wow.
Yeah.
My favorite sports movie, Remember the Titans.
Air Bud.
Perfect answer, actually.
I really don't know. I don't have one.
Movie? I haven't seen many, but does Sandlot count?
Favorite sports movie of all time? Probably Coach Carter.
Ooh, sports movie. Probably The Express.
Happy Gilmore.
The Little Giants.
Amari, what was your most favorite sports movie growing up?
Remember the Titans.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
I don't know the other one, but definitely not Barbie.
Oppenheimer, gotta be. I'm not against the Barbie movie though. I tried to recommend it. I was shut down pretty fast.
Oppenheimer. Come on now. You don't need to ask me that question. Oppenheimer looks good though.
What's Oppenheimer?
It's a movie about the atomic bomb. It's the big thing that comes out this Thursday?
Yeah, probably that.
Oppenheimer.
Wait, what was the other one?
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
The opposite of Barbie. The opposite of Barbie. Yeah, so I'm not.
We're gonna see Oppenheimer and then follow with Barbie.
Solid choice.
I don't even know what Oppenheimer is. I don't want to see Barbie though.
Oppenheimer, 100%.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Say a little bit louder.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, we're gonna watch both of them. Maybe on the same night, but we'll probably watch. I think you gotta watch Barbie first, just so you're not. Oppenheimer might be a little too intense. You know what I'm saying? So you warm up with Barbie and then you go to the Oppenheimer.
The second one. Oppenheimer.
Sorry. Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
Barbie.
Sixth and Peabody, our studios. Hot Mic with Hutton Withrow with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, Friday's almost here. It's almost time to propose a toast and get thirsty.
Well, I'm already thirsty. It's time to get.
We could.
I was going to say something that was not going to come across well.
Okay, well then don't say it.
Get slippery.
Okay, sure.
It was a 3-letter word I was going to say, but it wasn't going to come across well.
It's actually time to get weird with Davey Hudson.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Talking now.
Guys, my fact of the day surrounds metal detectors.
Okay.
So a lot of people, if you look back, you think Alexander Graham Bell was actually credited with inventing the metal detector. That would have been in 1881, and the reasoning behind that was...
Do most people know that? Because I don't.
Okay, well,
I had no
for
idea
those
it
that
was a metal
don't know,
detector.
that was the reasoning as to, or that's who's often credited with it. And the reason he's credited with it was because he used it in an attempt to remove the bullet that ultimately killed President James Garfield. Garfield was assassinated, and it wasn't necessarily the bullet or the gunshot that killed him, but the bullet remained in him and an infection developed, and therefore that was what ultimately led to his death. But Alexander Graham Bell had his own type of metal detector he tried to use to get the bullet out. Obviously not successful. But the guy who actually invented it, and this is where Bell pulled this idea from, was Gustave Pierre Trouve from Paris. So that was in 1874. They also were trying to use it.
That was your best pronunciation ever, by the way. That name, that was, you nailed that. French is your language.
There we are. The language of love, I
Yes.
think. So
I just didn't know that was common knowledge. Like you said it, like people people actually know that.
I mean, like Bell's often, like Edison, accredited with a lot of different inventions. So maybe it's not common knowledge.
Am I
I don't
an idiot,
know.
Hutton, or did you know that was
Now
Alexander
it's
Graham Bell
common
had something to do
knowledge.
with
Is
for
that
us.
his second most
I'm not sure who
second most famous invention, or
for patents. I want to say Edison's still at the top. I'm not exactly sure on that list. That would be something. I can go down that rabbit hole later. But the reason I bring up the metal detector, guys, and that gets us right into our first story. So, do you all remember hearing about the woman that was grazed by a bullet at the White Sox game last week?
Was it at the game or outside the game?
No, this was at the game.
Okay, I've heard something about this, but I assumed it was outside the game.
Okay. It gets weird because, and I want to credit the person that got this, but Peggy Kuzinski, she reported on this. This woman snuck the gun past the metal detectors in between her fat rolls.
and it did not pick up on the metal detector.
If it did, they weren't able to figure out what it was, or even if they're wanding, they're just like, I mean, I don't see anything. And it's not like they pull the old English bulldog trick, when people walk through and they're like, all right, let's check all the crevices. But apparently it was able to slip by the metal detector. They didn't see that. And so it was an accidental discharge, so it wasn't like somebody was attempting to shoot. And if you see this video or this picture right here,
it's like Plaxico Burress.
This was actually after the shot happened, and most people didn't even know a gunshot went off. It was just a couple of people being like, "Wait, something's weird."
Yeah, the silencer was the fat.
Yeah.
I mean, so she like pulled the gun out.
No, it was an accidental. It was an accidental discharge.
Yes, like on her hip.
Yep. I'm not exactly sure where it struck, but I mean, it didn't ultimately do serious damage to the woman. But the fact that, I mean, there's several problems we can get in here. Is the one, you're that big to where you're able to hide the gun in your fat rolls to begin with, and then two, the metal detector, the staff not stopping and saying, "Hey, how did you get this in here?" kind of thing. But that's just
there's a lot of trust that I just don't buy on security. It's all optics.
I don't think
not
that
make people paranoid.
I think the more likely scenario is not that the fat rolls covered up the metal detector, is that the metal detector was not on or working for everyone.
Maybe so.
That's what I think probably happened.
Maybe so.
I feel like there's a lot of places that I walk through. I'm like, no, I think this is just like you said, optics.
Well, like all of a sudden we don't have to take our phones out of our pockets. Just go on through.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Yeah, that took a while.
I mean, I appreciate that, but
in the investigation, because
as someone who doesn't smuggle weapons into events, I'd be the first to say I'm happy they do that. I just hope I'm not the victim of someone who does.
Yeah. For the police that were doing the investigation, they were able to rule out pretty quickly that the shot did not happen outside of the stadium. So
I guess people thought that. My assumption would be it did, just based on the photo you showed.
Yeah.
With no one really.
They're not moving. They're just still sitting there enjoying it.
It is the south side of Chicago. I mean,
sure, yeah.
Gunshots are quite common.
Yeah, but if someone hears one, they're not remaining where they are. They do scatter.
I saw a couple people using.
Or maybe they're just like, we've learned that
gunshots are common,
running, it makes you a target, so we just kind of sit still.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah.
They were using this as a
Pretend that we
narrative
didn't hear
as to
that.
moving the team out of Chicago.
I didn't see anything. It's like when I was walking in the streets of Baltimore, and then I saw the guy pull someone out of the car and beat them up and throw them to the side in traffic. And he looked over at me, and I gave him a look back like, I didn't see anything.
Didn't see a thing.
Sir, I didn't see anything. He's like, you didn't see anything, did you, bud? I'm like, no, didn't see anything. I'm just going to keep on walking.
Also, Davey, think about the woman who snuck this gun in would have to know, like, at what point do you realize you're so fat that you can sneak the gun through the metal detector, that you're confident in this?
That's bold.
Or do you just forget it's there?
I don't know how you forget. Like, I mean, again, I've
you're
never
such a
been
gangster
at
and
this.
fat that you just don't even bother, you know?
I think this person lives there, and they're accustomed to just being strapped at all times and ready to go to defend themselves. And it's like an appendage that they don't know is there. Just like if I were to wear a watch all the time, and I forget that the watch is there. My phone's on me at all times.
Right.
I forget it's there. I think that this person has their gun on them, wedged in the fat rolls, so much that they didn't know that they had it on them and just walked right in.
It's like the human cartoon where you can just continue to pull things out of the bag, and it's just it obviously wasn't going to fit in there. I wonder what else she had hidden in her fat rolls. I don't know if I'll get that answer.
It's like the trench coat mafia, you know, after Columbine. Remember this?
Oh,
Jeff?
They had
videos they had videos of kids wearing trench coats and all of the different weapons they could hide inside those coats. And so, you know, dress codes happen at public schools and county schools.
Well, they immediately had even like if you dyed your hair black, you couldn't do that anymore. There were a lot of different rules and regulations after Columbine. We were in high school at the time. I remember immediately it was everyone cracking down on anyone who's remotely Gothic looking.
Well, just the coat itself.
And
like
the coat was outlawed.
And the certain amount of pants, like the pants too, like the
military type pants,
the wide
cargo
leg,
pants.
Yeah. Parachutes, whatever they were.
Well, we went down a rabbit hole there. What's next for us, Dave?
That's what happens. Speaking of hiding things inside your body, our next story is an update from, gosh, I'm trying to even think about how far back this goes. But do you remember the cheating scandal in chess that shocked the world?
No.
Okay, well, quick wrap up on that. There was a post that was put on Reddit. I know it's already going down a rabbit hole in itself. But somebody claimed that whenever Magnus Carlsen quit a match against Hans Niemann and accused Niemann of cheating, the method in which Niemann was cheating was that he was being communicated to through an AI or some sort of algorithm that was sending vibrations to anal beads that he had during the match. And this led to a lawsuit involving hundreds of thousands of dollars in defamation. And it was one of the things to where this case just kind of kept going. We were going to see what happened. I know the chess audiences might not be that forum, but they've ultimately resolved their dispute. The case has been settled, and no money's going to change hand based off what we know at this time. But
so he didn't have it inside of him.
They were able to confirm that he was not using anything to cheat during this match.
So did you just want to say anal beads on the show?
Well, that was the method of cheating.
He did not cheat, though, right?
But they said that he didn't have it on there.
They were able to confirm. They were able to confirm that was false.
But why? So someone just claimed that was the case, and then they confirmed it was false.
But they were trying to think of ways in which they could actually cheat, because when Carlson just quit out of the blue, thinking something was amiss. There wasn't much conversation that ultimately happened between the competitors, and then Neiman, as it had turned out, had cheated in multiple situations prior to this, so they thought he had found another way to cheat, but they, based off the equipment they use and the technology they have at their disposal to prevent people from cheating, they were like, this has to be some sort of new mechanism
so the new mechanism they thought of that was not true was that.
Yes.
I feel awful for this guy because someone made this allegation, and now Davey and others and everyone who Googles his name, that is what's going to pop up next to his name forever. And it was a false allegation.
Well, it's
He got through it.
The 2022 report that Hans didn't cheat in any in-person games. He's been fully reinstated.
I just find it amazing that they thought about, well, how could he have cheated? And that was the one method they came. Did we not learn anything from the Astros scandal? There had to be other ways in which they could have sent signals to the skin without doing that.
I will not claim to be an expert on ways in which you can cheat while playing chess.
Well, this guy isn't either.
Is there someone that can cough? Knock, clap?
Well,
I don't know how else. Someone else would have to be sending him something.
Yeah, and there was a couple of other people that ultimately got wrapped up into this lawsuit, but it was a big headache, and then there were some countersuits. So it's all finally behind them, and they've agreed that if they were to be paired up against each other in future matches, they would play one another. So we can move along and know that story has, I guess, somewhat of a happy ending there. And then our next story, speaking of cramming things in tight areas, we have a 51-year-old man in Indiana that has been arrested for DUI while trying to drive down the road in a toy Jeep. Now, I ended up looking up this, went to Mattel's site. I don't have the exact vehicle he was in, but they say that this is for kids ages 3 to 7, so 51, just a little on the outside there. But it turns out once the police pulled over 51-year-old John McKee, he was ultimately under the influence of methamphetamines and marijuana.
That part of the story does not shock me one bit.
I'm shocked that it worked based on the weight. This must be a very small man, Chad. Do you think that this, if we were in this, would it actually operate?
I don't think so.
Battery-wise?
No.
I don't think so either.
It would not move. Like, it doesn't have the horsepower to move an adult human. So I don't think that would work.
Shot?
We have one of these Jeeps together, too.
Trying to find that.
I'm convinced the guys who accosted, at least one of the guys who accosted Ronald Acuna was also on meth. If I had to guess, the one who was sprinting, it took 3 people to get him to the ground. That's my hypothesis on that one. When I hear this story, I immediately think George Jones and the DUI on the lawnmower. How he would notoriously get drunk and take off on his lawnmower and go to get more booze on the lawnmower. That's who I immediatly thought of when I heard about a guy driving.
They pulled him over because it didn't have
lights or reflectors.
Yeah, it was hard to see. Power Wheels Jeep.
Down, low to the ground. It's not.
Are
a
you
lot
a
of
Power
things
Wheels family, Chad? Do you have like the Barbie version or anything like that?
We've got a frozen Jeep that was hardly used. Like,
Really?
there was like one summer where Evie drove it a little bit, but since then, Lucy's never been a big fan.
Oh,
it needs to be trashed.
We loved those growing up. Destroyed them in a good way.
Yeah, that didn't really take off.
Like bumper cars.
Didn't really take off. Once they got to know how to ride the bike, that really replaced the toy Jeep.
Davey, any other dates you've been on since last week?
No. Short answer.
Taking it slow?
Yeah.
Your choice.
Well, it's, again, like, I feel obligated to pay for the first date, and I've learned that if I'm going to do that, like, I need to do the proper checks before I get to where I'm physically like, hey, let's meet up and go grab drinks or.
Before you spend money on this person. Yeah. Well,
I mean, if Outkick like wants to, start just fronting the tab for all these, we can definitely have like weekly occurrences for that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I don't know that they're going to approve of that one. What is the checks and next time? Here's the question to start this segment. What did the checks and balances entail of what you're checking on before you go on a physical date? Just save it for now, and then give us the answer. I want to know what your checklist consists of in order to validate them to where you then spend money on them.
Duly noted. All right, I'll
I
be
think
thinking of that.
the perception is Davey feels like their checklist includes free meal, not spending money.
Well, it doesn't have to, but
maybe it does.
Well, we'll find out next time.
Hopefully, it's a decent meal for said person.
I think these women can get fed on their own.
Coming up
without Davey,
the coach on the rise and slide across the SEC and the Big Ten. That's next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted
he
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Wednesday edition. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow here across the Outkick Network. 6th and Peabody, our live location. Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine resides right here, along with the Outkick studio. Chad, coming up in about 20 minutes, Bernard Pollard will join us, former Purdue Boilermaker and NFL safety Super Bowl champion. Joins us via Zoom. That's coming up in 20 minutes. Headlines include Joe Burrow, who is back at practice for the Bengals, and Mac Jones is he's the guy in New England. I mean, we thought he was last year, and of course when they drafted him at 15th selection 2 years ago, but there was always that buzz that Belichick wasn't happy. Well, they only had one quarterback on the roster until today when they signed the guys they cut back to the practice squad. Weird. The whole thing has been bizarre.
Very strange. Looking forward to Bernard Pollard coming up a little bit later.
No doubt. So each day this week leading up to kickoff, been discussing the top two conferences across the country, the brands, the SEC and the Big Ten. Everyone else follows. And the expectation, the pressure, the hype, and the talent within the conferences. And it's led us to today's discussion on the college football coaches in the Big Ten and the SEC who are on the rise, and we'll select one as well on the slide for each conference. I am high on Wisconsin. I'll raise my hand and admit when I'm wrong here.
You have a Badger buzz.
I don't think I'll be wrong, though, because Luke Fickell is taking over the program. Paul Chryst did a great job, and we went through his record and why he was let go, and if it was fair, if it was unfair, what was going on with the program. Haven't won the Rose Bowl since '99, haven't won the conference since 2012. They made the right hire here with Luke Fickell and what he did at Cincinnati and what he's going to do at Wisconsin with Mordecai, their quarterback now, who transfers from SMU. Solid run game, but an offense now, Chad, that is going to feature more of the air raid, more of the passing attack, which is what they've got to get to. Fickell will bring that, and so will their offensive additions. I'm looking at their schedule, and the reason I say he's on the rise, it's a difficult schedule compared to what we see from Michigan and Ohio State. They open the season against Buffalo. Then they're on the road against Washington State, home against Georgia Southern. Then they get back into Big Ten play. They've got Purdue, Rutgers, Iowa, Illinois, and then games against Ohio State, Indiana, Northwestern, Nebraska, followed by Minnesota. I mentioned the full schedule because I think how it trends is momentum for Fickell in the program, where I don't believe we'll look at James Franklin as the third best coach in the conference. I think it'll end up being Fickell, who will be on the rise behind Harbaugh and Ryan Day. And I think Harbaugh's out of the conference after this year. I think he's back to the NFL. Fickell overtakes that spot too. And he meets expectations, he exceeds expectations, and there's not a lot of expectations set in year one for him. You don't discuss him when you start rattling off teams. You do, but you have to list 3 or 4 or 5. He will be top of mind by the end of the season for what the Badgers can accomplish with the additions they've made through the transfer portal.
To me, there's a balance there that needs to be struck for Wisconsin from the old to the new. I don't think you completely abandon great run blocking offensive line play, great running backs, rushing attack. The way they play, there's a middle ground. You got to advance. You got to move more towards this century. You need more athletes on the outside while also being able to get 2 yards when you need it, which is the Wisconsin way. And I think Luke Fickell is the right coach to play that balancing act with what they're doing.
And they bring Phil Longo over, too.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Call plays.
Great hire to me. I thought the same about Scott Frost in Nebraska.
That's fair.
And others, so things can't go south, but I do think it's going to work out.
And he waited.
For Wisconsin.
He waited and chose this program. So I think he's not just sitting on the wayside here waiting on the next jump. I think he's invested, and I think he builds it great.
My riser in the Big Ten, Mike Locksley at Maryland. This is a guy who failed badly in his first head coaching job at New Mexico. It's gotten better at Maryland. He's recruited well. He had 5 guys drafted in this last NFL draft. I think that Mike Locksley in Maryland will be 5-0 going to Columbus, Ohio. They open with Towson, Charlotte, Virginia at home, all likely wins. 2 of the 3 likely blowouts, maybe Virginia also a blowout. At Michigan State, that's the big swing game for them. Indiana at home. Those 5, they get to 5-0. They were 8-5 a year ago. Great offense led by Taulia Tagovailoa. Mike Locksley's a good recruiter. The NIL system with Mike Locksley's recruiting ability and his network of guys, perfect in a transfer portal era. They bring in Tyrese Chambers from FIU at receiver and Caden Prather from West Virginia as a wide receiver. These guys are difference makers from day one, and they lost some guys to the NFL at receiver a year ago. Maryland a year ago was 7-0 when they got over 400 yards in a game. 0-5 when they don't. They go as their offense goes, and they've got a veteran quarterback. There's a lot of turnover at quarterback throughout the Big Ten, not at Maryland. Taulia Tagovailoa makes Mike Locksley a riser in the conference. This is going to be a very good and dangerous Maryland team. They're not right there with the Big Three in the Big Ten East, but they're nipping at the heels of Penn State, and they will challenge at least a couple of those teams this year.
I'm intrigued by this. This is a great example of name, image, likeness, and the impact on the portal, because Locksley's also admitted they just opened a brand new state-of-the-art facility there.
Yep.
He said it really doesn't matter in recruiting. It's about how much money you have and what guys are getting paid to come to play at said university. If he's on the rise, I wonder if he's rising and then jumps to a program that allows him to be all in with NIL. Because he's not saying that. I'm not saying Maryland can't pay some players, but he's not saying that unless he's getting, a little pushback on, hey, you've got this state-of-the-art facility. We're spending money on the program. I found that. I filed that away.
Yeah,
because he can have a ton of success.
Facilities are just the baseline now. I mean, that just gets you in the room.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's got great facilities. Well, everyone I'm looking at, if you're a top player with the money you're going to get.
I like the answer. I think he rises and ends up being the head coach of a different program.
Could be. But either way, we're thinking highly of Mike Locksley
no doubt.
After this year.
Within the SEC for me, Chad, maybe you would say he shouldn't qualify here because he's already thought of in a very high way. I think it's Josh Heupel, new quarterback, in Joe Milton, replacing Hendon Hooker, who was in the Heisman campaign before he tore his ACL against South Carolina last year. They've lost their offensive coordinator, quote unquote, Alex Golesh, who got a head coaching job at South Florida, and there's been no mention, no craziness, no paranoia about replacing. Think about the coordinators that Kiffin had to replace last year and the discussion that was going on at Ole Miss. Haven't heard a peep about that in Knoxville. It's because of Josh Heupel, who will continue to prove how great he is with the game planning aspect, the scheme more than the one quarterback, the one wide receiver, run and get open type offense. No, the scheme will allow them to have success. And the schedule sets up, again, for a lot of that momentum and praise to come about in back-to-back games against A&M and Bama going into that stretch at 5-0, potentially. Chad, when you start listing SEC coaches, Heupel is going to be in the upper shelf. There's Saban and Kirby Smart. Maybe it's Kirby Smart and Saban, whatever you want to argue. Brian Kelly. Jimbo Fisher is still thrown out there. No longer. Josh Heupel's in the mix now, and he's not going to be forgotten.
Take out the old guys who've accomplished huge things at previous stops along the way. And I'm talking about Jimbo Fisher, Brian Kelly, to name two. And then obviously Saban and Kirby Smart.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Kiffin, Josh Heupel, to me, are right there.
Yep.
And then it's everybody else. So I think he's already, to your point, Hutton, he's moved into that next level of SEC quarterback. Another successful season, and maybe he surpasses a Lane Kiffin, let's say, where I think they're sort of dead even right now.
I think there's another level.
There's another level to get to. I do think, though, that this, some people are like, well, we're going to get to see what's the ceiling for Josh Heupel. I think 2023 defines his floor because they are handing over the keys to a guy who lost his starting job from a guy who took the starting job that was the perfect quarterback for Josh Heupel's system. Physically, mentally, quick decisions, accuracy, everything you wanted was Hendon Hooker. Joe Milton has everything physically better than Hendon Hooker that you
No
would
doubt.
want. The mental part of it, we'll see as the season goes along. But I think this transition year to a new quarterback defines the floor, and I think it's going to be a really good floor. I think Tennessee fans are going to find if it's 8-4, 9-3, which to me 9-3 is maybe the most likely of all of this. That's a really good floor from where you were, from 11-2 to 9-3. Only in year 3 and continuing to build and have depth. This is the first year they're going to have any depth at all on defense.
Think about the ceiling, though. And if there is another level, if they are able to get back to what they were last year, watch out, because Tennessee's going to be in the mix moving forward.
Well, they jumped big on defense last year from the year before to this year. I think they're going to take another sizable jump defensively because they've got a lot of dudes on that side of the ball now that can give them some actual depth where you're not just reliant on one or two guys that are starting. And if you lose one guy at a certain position, you're done for. That's not the case on defense. I'm expecting good things from Tennessee this year. I need to see a little bit more of Joe Milton other than that one Clemson game before I'm able to say, yeah, they're going to be as good as they were a year ago.
Guys will be running open, though.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
Do I think they're going 11-2? Probably not. Do I think that their floor will be defined this year and it's going to be a really high floor? Yes, I think it will. My guy, my riser in the SEC, it's a guy that everybody's heard of before, but he's about to remind a few people this dude can coach some offense. Hugh Freeze, that Auburn. Hugh Freeze is one of the more quiet hires for a guy that has beaten Nick Saban twice while he was at Ole Miss. This just sort of, unlike O.J. Simpson where the glove didn't fit, the glove just fit nice and warm and snug for Hugh Freeze going to Auburn. It made so much sense when the flirtation with Lane Kiffin was over and he decided to stay at Ole Miss that it would be Hugh Freeze coming over from Liberty back into the SEC West. Familiar ground for him, areas he's recruited well before. Like this hire for Auburn. I think also, Hutton, you look at their schedule.
How does it stack up?
UMass, Cal, Samford. They're going to be 3-0.
They've got the Ole Miss schedule to begin, like Ole Miss had last year.
They go to Texas A&M in week 4. So 3-0 to start the season. And then it gets tough. But Mississippi State down the road, Vanderbilt as a crossover opponent in the East, New Mexico State in November. I could see this being an 8-4 team and that surprising people and everyone immediately saying, man, Hugh Freeze went and got Peyton Thorne from Michigan State to come in and start right away at quarterback, showing he can take a number of different types of guys and be successful offensively with those quarterbacks. He's going to show that with Peyton Thorne. I think we're thinking more highly of Hugh Freeze after this season at Auburn.
And replacing every single offensive player and how difficult that is without a preseason game, without much of anything other than just a handful of practices to get that rolling. I mean, the A&M game, to me, I'm thinking, that's a very winnable game, but not based on how and what they're integrating here and the new pieces. They're going to be better based on who they're replacing and the upgrades that Hugh Freeze brings there. But I'm also thinking you've got 3 warm-up games, more or less. Throw Cal in the mix with that too. Is that enough to hit your stride in the SEC schedule for Auburn when you take on the Aggies? Is that in College Station?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of a must-win for A&M.
Yes.
It feels like you can't lose at home early on in the SEC season.
That feels like Miami
Auburn.
of last year for A&M, where everything turns, and that was after the Appalachian State.
After the loss to App State.
Yeah. I'm thinking to myself there, they could be an early surprise if they start winning at A&M on the road.
Hutton, who's falling in the ACC this year, or the SEC?
SEC? Eli Drinkwitz, I think, is out after this year. He hasn't had a 6-win season at Missouri, and he's very vocal. I mean, he gets attention based on what he says at a podium. I'm all for that. But at some point, you have to put up more than what he's shown as the head coach in the SEC, not named Vanderbilt. And as far as the sliders, Eli Drinkwitz, you could argue they considered discussing letting him go last year. This will be the year they let him go unless they are able to reach postseason play a legitimate way, and that's by having 6 wins. And we haven't seen that yet out of the program.
So I love this guy I'm going with. He's joined the show a number of times, but I think the schedule does him no favors this year, and he's got such favorite son status right now. There may be nowhere to go but down.
Okay.
Shane Beamer at South Carolina. They open with North Carolina. I think they lose that game. I think it's going to be a good game. I think they lose that one. They'll beat Furman. Then they go to Georgia. They get Mississippi State at home, and they go to Knoxville to take on Tennessee. So that's a likely 2-3 start, and it does not get that much easier. Florida, at Missouri, at A&M to follow. This is probably a team that gets better as the year goes on, and they can rack up some wins late. Jacksonville State, Vandy, Kentucky, in a stretch in October and November that they'll have. And they'll get bowl eligible, but I think it's going to be come back down to earth a little bit year for Shane Beamer in South Carolina. I don't think Spencer Rattler can play consistently the way he did those last 2 weeks. If he does, look out. This team's got some good talent and can do some big things. I don't think he does that.
Chad, for me in the Big Ten, Kirk Ferentz is my answer for the Slider. He's been the head coach since '99. There are those that say he will never be fired as the head coach at Iowa. Think about the coaches throughout the last 20 years that we could say that about, that resigned. He's 68 years old, and his son is the offensive coordinator who took a pay cut and has to average 25 points per game at Iowa. That's not happening.
I got 2 words for you. Greg Schiano.
We have to hit this later. Schiano.
That's my faller.
And Chad's diatribe.
It's my fall guy.
Bernard Pollard, though, joins us next. Buckle up. Hot Mic rolls on.
GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy thinks that all voters should be able to pass a civics test, so I'm here on Broadway to see how we're doing. Can you name 3 cabinet positions?
Oh, Secretary of State.
Yep.
Secretary of Labor.
Yep.
And we'll go the Secretary of Education.
Correct. What is the capital of Tennessee?
That one. I have no idea. Tallahassee.
Tallahassee.
No, that's Florida. That's Florida.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
No. Do you know the capital of Tennessee?
What the hell? These people don't even like me.
All right, I'll give you a hint. You're standing in it. How many U.S. senators are there?
Way too many.
Well, they're way too old, I'll tell you that.
Not enough to do the job right, that's for sure.
If something bad happens to the president, who takes over?
The vice president.
Who is our vice president right now?
What does it start with? What's the first letter start with?
K.
Not sure. I don't know.
Okay. When was the Constitution written?
1976.
1787. How many amendments does the Constitution have?
32.
27. How many U.S. senators are there?
More than 50.
That's true, yes.
Because there's 50 states. There you go.
And how many senators are from each state?
2.
So how many is that?
100.
There you go. It's just basic math. You got it.
I have to really think.
What ocean is on the east coast of the United States?
Pacific?
East Coast.
Atlantic, then.
There you go. If something bad happens to the president and the vice president, who takes over?
First one up from Congress?
And who is that?
Some old man.
Do you know what ocean is on the east coast of the United States?
Pacific?
Atlantic, sorry. Wait. Atlantic. What is the capital of Tennessee? Nashville. It's Nashville, guys. How many years do we elect a senator for?
4.
6. What about a congressman?
That's 4.
2.
It's just a trick question. So.
Before he was president, Eisenhower was a general in what war?
World War II. He commanded Operation Overlord and D-Day invasion.
Correct. Okay. When was the Constitution written? Before that.
1854.
Before that.
1818.
Before that.
1777.
After that.
1789.
Before that.
1784.
After that.
1785.
After that.
1786.
After that.
1777.
After that. You were so close.
1778.
No.
Kanye West, Kanye 2024, big time. I wrote him in, West Virginia, put him on the ballot.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? So proudly we hail, so.
Sixth and Peabody, our studio spots with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mike with Honey Withrow rolls on here on Outkick. Chad, you opened the show by saying we bang hats.
Yeah.
And one of our guests absolutely did that throughout his career.
He did so we do so figuratively.
Right.
He did
we
so.
try to bring that energy.
He did so literally.
Right.
He is known for hat banging.
Yeah, which we have mad respect
Kindred
for.
spirit of ours.
No doubt. Bernard Pollard joins us, former NFL safety, Super Bowl champion, Purdue Boilermaker, and more. Bernard, good to see you, BP.
Man, good to see you guys. How y'all doing?
Doing great, man. But I see the backdrop. You have a phenomenal home studio, by the way. The game balls.
Yeah.
How many do you have behind you on the shelves?
Oh man.
Plenty.
Yeah, I got
see
it's a lot.
interception on a few of them.
Awesome.
Yeah, high school over here, high school ball, however my fingers going. Rookie ball, Super Bowl ball, interceptions, forced fumbles, block punts, block field goals, touchdown balls. So yeah, so it's pretty fun.
Let's jump right in, man. We're about a week away from the regular season kicking off next Thursday night. Rosters are set.
Yeah.
Is there a team that is not getting enough attention right now for you? And if so, why going into the NFL season? And who do you point to that we should be paying more attention to instead of just, the Chiefs?
You know what? I'm going to say no. I mean, because as you guys know, you guys been covering this for a long time. 32 teams are talking about winning the Super Bowl. That thing is going to dwindle down real soon here in about the next 2.5 months, because we're going to figure out who's pretenders and who are contenders. And, so I look at all of this and I just say, let this thing play out. We all see the Jets getting a lot of hype. Of course, we see the Kansas City Chiefs getting a lot of hype. Now, I truly believe the Kansas City Chiefs are contenders simply because of the head coach, who is the head coach, the overseer, and the offensive coordinator. Plus, they have the best quarterback in football. The Jets, I can understand. You have probably the second or third best quarterback in the National Football League with Aaron Rodgers, and with that move, and obviously going into the New York market, they're going to do everything they can to pump them boys up. But I just don't know how powerful. I don't know if that team on paper is going to be as good as they're talking about, because I don't trust the defense. They're athletic. They're really good. I just don't trust them this year. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to pull some things out of his hat to be able to get that team over the hump. I mean, he can, but I don't know if it mixed well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. I'm rooting for the Lions. I really am. For an NFC team, I'm rooting for the Lions. I like Coach Campbell. They have probably the second best athletic team in the National Football League. Them, the Jaguars, and the Jets. Three of the most athletic teams in the National Football League, and it's not even close with any other roster. So yeah, it's interesting.
The Lions are a good example of my next question. So you're a competitor. You're a leader. Right. You being like just a player in the locker room.
Right.
But you have Jared Goff as your quarterback. You don't have Patrick Mahomes. Are you really buying into the fact that you're a Super Bowl contender if you don't have one of the top 5 or 6 dudes in the NFL at that position?
Heck yeah. I mean, let's look at Goff's stats. I mean, he threw 7 picks last year.
Yeah.
I mean, he was
and
remarkable.
He's been to a Super Bowl.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this kid can play. He has the experience. He has been lighting it up. They had a top offense last year. For the Lions taking the heat that they took, Coach Campbell taking the heat that he took, I respect him first and foremost because he took a lot of heat for the team, which the heat should have been on Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator who was calling cover zero in the craziest situations, putting his defense out there with 75, 80 yards of field behind him in cover zero. Well, the quarterback was finding the one player that didn't play it right, and it was touchdown because when that one player messed up, you can't make up for that. And so, Aaron Glenn should have took a lot of the heat last year for the Lions' failures, a lot of their losses. But they came on strong at the end of last year. So Goff can lead his team to the Super Bowl. He's led that offense to be powerful. He's led that offense to score a lot of points. The defense has just got to catch up. And I think if they do that, they can win the North. I think they can make some noise in the NFC playoff wise. I mean, it's really not a lot of powerful teams, a lot of teams that we're talking about as far as the NFC.
Bernard Pollard with us at CrushBoy31 on social.
Trey Lance getting a second chance in Dallas as a backup to Dak Prescott. When his story is over, Bernard, will we see a guy who was overrated, overvalued, where we didn't see him play much football, but people got enamored and in love with his traits? Or is this the start of the next act where he starts to get more experience and eventually figures it out and becomes a starter in the National Football League?
I mean, to be honest with you, the 49ers, they're not getting enough heat for this. I honestly I don't believe they're getting enough heat for the evaluation on him, the capital that they gave up for him, and then trading him and getting a 4th-round pick for him. That right there was a steal. Or not, I shouldn't say a steal. It was robbery on the 49ers behalf. I'm surprised the Cowboys gave up a 4th-rounder if that stands true. For a kid that threw 56 passes in his career, 797 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. And, he's just, I don't see him beating out Dak. I mean, was it smart for the Cowboys to make a decision to go get him? I don't know if it was smart. I mean, obviously Dak has missed some games in the last couple of years because of, little injuries, but I don't know if I'm not sure to say I don't know if he's better than Dak. I know he's not better than Dak. Can he learn another system from what he was doing with the 49ers going to the Cowboys? I think that's more pressure on him playing for the Dallas Cowboys. I really do. They're America's team. They're not in the New York market, but at the end of the day, we all talk about the Cowboys all the freaking time. So at the end of the day, I don't know if this was a good decision to pick him up because I don't know if he makes that team better if he goes down. I really don't. I mean, we saw Greer stepped in last year and won some games for the Cowboys. I don't know if Trey Lance can do that. I mean, I really don't. I don't know if he can do that. I don't know if Coach McCarthy is the quarterback whisperer who can pull some out of this guy because, I mean, we all thought Shanahan could do it, and he couldn't.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got to beat out Cooper Rush, too, that backup there. And he attempted 420 passes in his college and NFL career combined. Yeah. That was the thing that was crazy. And if you were doing some scouting, you were doing some work with prospects right after your career, Bernard. It's like, if you're not playing, how do you actually judge what a guy is or what he's not?
Yeah, it's tough, and I made a mistake with because Rush stepped in, but obviously
Greer was there too. Yeah,
Greer was there as well, but I just don't. I mean, I just don't know with this evaluation, and this is the crazy thing about football. I mean, these guys come out of college and making the money that they make. He's made a lot of money to not have done anything. I mean, I shouldn't say anything. A lot in the NFL. He hasn't done it. And, people expected, the organization expected him to be able to do some things, but I guess he was just available, so if they thought that he was the best player available that year, I mean, they need to fire that entire scouting staff because they did a terrible job. Like I said, they gave up a lot of capital and, going to get him, and he wasn't able to beat out the Garoppolos or the other guys, the Purdy's that they brought in. I mean, freaking A, I'm sorry, man. But, at the end of the day, they're not getting enough heat and they got bailed out getting a 4th-round pick because at the end of the day, a 4th-round pick is still pretty doggone good if you make the right selection.
Jonathan Taylor's situation in Indianapolis. How does something what seems just kind of simple get to this point where He has ankle surgery. He's supposed to be ready for camp. It's a week. It's like 6 to 8 weeks recovery time, and he's failing a physical going into a camp where he had surgery in January. He's on PUP to begin the year. He's not traded, and he's kind of in purgatory here. What do you make of this, and how does a team that relies on him, basically he's their offense with a rookie quarterback, how do they let it get to this point?
You know what? I wish, and I don't know Taylor personally, and so, right now, I mean, we all are doing a lot of assuming. I wish he would have went about this a different route. I think he knew he was the best player. When you have a rookie quarterback coming in, I think he held all the cards. I think if he played this thing the right way, he got exactly what he wanted after the first couple games. I mean, we have to be honest, and we all understand that this is a business. The Indianapolis Colts were not good last year. Jonathan Taylor played, 11 games last year. You're coming off of an injury, and you're expecting to come in to be paid. You're demanding to be paid. Well, when it's all said and done, bro, we got to see you in camp. We got to see you first couple games to see, can we count on you? And I truly believe they can, but I think the way that he went about his business was the wrong way. And I mean, I don't necessarily think he's hurt right now, right?
I don't either. I don't buy it.
Exactly. I'm not buying that at all. Fell in the physical. I mean, as a professional football player, when you don't want to hold out or you don't want to be whatever, you show up to the facility and, that's the first thing you say, like, okay, no, I can't do it. And right. And so now they just put failed next to it. So I'm not buying that he was hurt. He just went about it the wrong way. And I think leadership came in and said, no, we gonna stand tall and we not gonna buck against this. We gonna stand our ground. And that's exactly what they should do, because I think as a player, a player of his talent, a player of his of everything that he's done for the Indianapolis Colts, I just wish he would not have done it this way, because when it's all said and done, they still hold the cards. They have it all. So he can hold out all he wants to. He can take this stance. It rolls over to next year. So then you don't get it. You don't get a season if you don't want to come out and play. So when it's all said and done, for players that's listening to this, future players, guys that are playing, like, do business better. We have got to do business better, because these men and women, they don't have to budge if they don't want to. I just think we're in the NFL now where players are speaking and they feel like they need to be heard. They're going to get everything that they demanded. And that's just not true.
Bernard, I'm kind of loving this Jim Harbaugh versus the NCAA thing that's going on, where Harbaugh clearly doesn't think he should be suspended at all, but his university's forcing him to take a 3-game suspension. So he goes on with his press conference and just comes out and starts blasting the NCAA on something else, the lack of revenue sharing with players and how it's ridiculous how they make millions and they're not willing to give up a piece of that pie for college football players. Are you entertained by Jim Harbaugh versus the NCAA?
Smoke and mirrors, man. Just smoke.
We'll change the argument if we need to, but I got plenty of ways I can hit the NCAA without talking about this specific case.
Yeah, look, this is something where, I know Coach Harbaugh, and look, this self-imposed suspension and, bringing in his father and then saying other people are going to step in, but he's going to be there throughout the week to do all of this. I mean, I don't know what's true. I don't know what's not true. Something was done. Something illegal was done, and they're trying to do everything they can to throw smoke or throw dirt back on to the NCAA when violations were had, and they made them. I think we all know most teams in the NCAA, they are doing it, and for Coach Harbaugh, I just, you don't want to take that fight. Because if they come back and start digging, we're gonna find out some stuff. And just take the self. It's 3 games. Take the 3 games. I think I don't even know who all they play the first couple games of the season.
It doesn't matter.
East Carolina, right. UNLV, Bowling Green, no one.
Right. So, dude, like, bro, you still there at the facility. You're not gone. You got, your father in, who's going to do whatever you tell him to do anyways, who's actually a cool dude.
Yeah.
I love
Great
that
guy.
dude, man.
Yeah,
Great
I've
dude.
met him. Good dude.
Yeah, man. So
if you don't like your situation there, he's got the NFL to go back to. Hey, final 60 seconds here. Saban's not going to release a depth chart.
Yeah.
Is that where we're headed now, where the guys on the roster, the kids on the roster can't handle being second place, even though they're going to be placated to based on the transfer portal?
Look, I look at this. The first thing I see when I read what Coach Saban said, I don't think he trusts the players that he has on a roster. The players they have on the roster. I don't think he's sure about. They're going to be a good football team, but when it's all said and done, I don't know for him as a head coach, and he's phenomenal. He's probably the best in college football. But when I hear, okay, I just don't want to put it out there because I want guys to just compete. Well, you're kind of telling me something with that. Like, everybody's gonna come in here and compete. This is what Alabama's been doing, competing and dominating people for a very long time. When it's all said and done, do you trust the talent? Do you trust the product that you're putting on the football field? I don't know if he trusts the talent that he's putting on the football field. So he's saying, okay, you know what? I need all distractions. I don't even want to put it out there. Everybody, let's just do what we need to do. Let's concentrate on what we need to concentrate on. And whoever go out there, when we name a starter, let's just go out there and do it. I honestly feel like there's some doubt in Coach Saban. And with him doing this, because he's a very confident man. You guys have heard him speak.
Oh, yeah.
We all have seen him coach. He is confident in everything that he's doing. And this man is particular. He's good. And this right here tells me right here he doesn't trust some of the players that are playing for him this year.
Bernard Pollard, banging hats here on Hot Mic. Hey,
delivered.
BP, always. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully we can do this again soon, man.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Love talking ball. Yeah, great perspective there. Crush Boy 31 on social.
Brought it.
No doubt.
Knew he would.
Coming up, Greg Schiano is on the slide. Chad will tell you why. He's out in the Big Ten. That's next on Hot Mic with Hutton Withrow.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into Outkick the Show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted,
he did
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. A bold taste of a Southern legend.
Our thanks to Charlie Arnault, Clay Travis, and Bernard Pollard for joining the show. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the Outkick Network. YouTube is where you can find us. X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, and the social media platforms. Just search out Outkick. We hope you subscribe, like, and chat with Chad live.
Your favorite
3 to 6
social
p.m.
media
Eastern.
platforms. That's where you can find us.
Chad, we mentioned briefly Jonathan Taylor and the situation where he's on PUP, tried to get traded. Colts didn't like the offers. I'm looking at a quote from Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts, who says, he was asked the question, does he believe that Jonathan Taylor's absence or situation will hinder Anthony Richardson's growth? How do you think he answered that? Does he think it will hinder Anthony Richardson's growth, having a strong back?
He probably said no, was his answer.
Did it stunt Andrew Luck's growth without a special back? That was his quote about that. And keep this in mind. Jim Irsay has passed the buck to Ballard. I know Dockich thinks it's all on Ballard. This is on Irsay. The conversation started on the bus with Irsay, where they weren't happy with the contract. Irsay then talked about running back compensation across the league and said it was unprofessional for running backs to discuss going back to the negotiation table about the CBA. Then said he wouldn't be trading Jonathan Taylor, not now and not in October. And then most recently said, hey, we're going to, Chris is tasked with trying to get the most and get the best out of this situation with Taylor and get him on the field. Well, now you have Ballard, who's been tasked with that, trying to trade him, didn't get it done, didn't like the compensation. Now he's on PUP for at least four games, first 4 games, probably longer. I don't believe for a second that he's failing a physical at Miami or Green Bay if they trade him there. But apparently he's not healthy enough to be on the active roster in Indy. And the general manager who's tasked with smoothing things over and calming the waters just said that it didn't stunt Andrew Luck's growth, that there wasn't a special back in the backfield. Yeah, comparing that to Anthony Richardson.
It's sort of and what Dan Dockich is arguing, others that I've heard talk about the situation, Pat McAfee had a big, long piece on this. And look, I think that Pat McAfee's friends with Jim Irsay. So, you know, I think they're friendly. So that this is part of this, and it's being colored by that perception. Those that are way against Taylor believe he showed up ready to sabotage everything and never really wanted to have a conversation. Those that are against Jim Irsay in this think when they met in that RV, he was so out of line that that's what made it irreparable, where others would argue, well, Jonathan Taylor came in not ready to repair anything and just took a flamethrower to the whole situation. I don't know what's true. I know that once whatever happened in that RV happened, Jonathan Taylor had no chance of playing for the Colts again. It seemed like it was the point of no return, and he wasn't going to come back. He wasn't going to be happy there. So they had to move him or find some sort of deal. And I don't think Jonathan Taylor or the Colts look good in any of this.
And it wasn't a lackadaisical answer in totality by Ballard. Parts of his answer also include this in his press availability today, Chad, and then we can get to Schiano. I want everyone to know that Jonathan's a well-respected, a really good human being, and a damn good football player. I think we all know this. Things like this happen. I tell every rookie that comes in, there's going to be a point where we disagree, and it's usually about money, and it's going to be hard. I'm going to skip around here. He goes on to say, and what sucks is, the situation sucks. I'm not going to sit here and give you some rosy picture like everything's okay. No, it sucks. It sucks for the Colts. It sucks for Taylor. It sucks for our fans. It just does. It's where we're at. It's what we've got to work through, and we're going to do everything we can to work through it. He goes on to say, Ballard says, relationships are repairable. When guys get emotional and take a stance, you've got to be able to work through those. We've got work to do. And then he ends with this. Did we give him permission to seek a trade? Yes, we did. I'm not going to get into the details of the teams, what was offered and what wasn't offered. But what I'm going to tell you is Jonathan is valuable. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to let him walk out of the building. That's not the best thing for the Colts and the organization. As for the decision to put him on PUP, it's when you're still having effects from last year's surgery and still having pain and not 100%. We're not going to put a player on the field that's still complaining of pain in the ankle. Wouldn't do that to any player. So he's saying Taylor's the one complaining about pain in the ankle in a rehab spot after the surgery that is typically like 6 to 9 weeks of recovery and then back. And it's the same guy who said he would be back in 100% for the start of camp.
Yeah, he's lying. There may be a little bit of discomfort, but he don't want to play. So it's easy to say, I've still got complications from the surgery.
Yeah, and it happened on the field last year, and they talked about the non-football injury list with the back or whatever this offseason during camp, because you don't have to pay the guy as much. You don't have to pay him his salary if he's on that list compared to the physically unable to perform list, which happens due to a football injury. Chad, Greg Schiano, your thoughts on the slider in the Big Ten. Mine was Kirk Ferentz. You're going with Schiano. This is a layup for you, my friend.
2020, 2021, 2022. So Greg Schiano took over during the COVID year of 2020. He is 12-22 in his return to Rutgers. Now, it's Rutgers, and when they had their heyday from 2005 to 2011, where he got things rolling at Rutgers and they won a ton of games, it took them 4 years to build up to that, to get there. They were in the Big East at the time. Very different conference than the Big Ten. So I'm not slamming the 12-22 record as much as I am slamming any hope that Greg Schiano is the guy to turn it around at Rutgers. And quite frankly, I don't know who's going to do well at Rutgers. This is one of the worst conference editions. No, it's not one of the worst. It's the worst of any conference edition we've seen. Of realignment, this is the worst decision for the Big Ten to bring in Rutgers. They have not been competitive. I don't think they're ever going to be competitive. Greg Schiano is 0-9 versus the Big Three in the Big Ten East. That is Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. Some other numbers. In those games, he's losing by an average of 42-15 against the top of his own division. This year, they opened with Northwestern at home, must win, with a hobbled Northwestern program with all the scandal they faced this offseason.
Better win in Piscataway.
Better win. You don't go to Piscataway and come out there with a win easily. That's what I've always heard from brilliant football minds. Then they get Temple at home, should be a win. Virginia Tech, should be a win, maybe not. Brent Pry in year 2, they were bad a year ago. That's probably more of a toss-up game. And they get Wagner at home. They may win those 4 games. I don't see another win on the schedule. When you look at the Big Ten schedule from that point on, games against Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State. They play Michigan State. I don't see any wins for them. They were 4-8 a year ago. I think they're probably another 3-9 or 4-8 team. I just think after this year, after 4 years with Schiano, I say that he's my big fall guy, that he will fall, he's our slider in the Big Ten for this reason. The idea that he is some mastermind of Rutgers football that can reinvent Rutgers in his own image from 2005 for 2011 when they were a part of the Big East, now in the Big Ten, that myth will be proven to be true this year. It is a myth. He's not the guy. He's not a great coach. He did a great job. He is what Rutgers needed back in 2005. I don't know what the hell Rutgers needs. A new conference? Probably, likely. They would do better somewhere else. They're not going to compete in the Big Ten. Certainly not in the Big Ten East when they're playing those teams. Greg Schiano's due for another fall this season, Hutton.
Yeah, and, Rutgers' defense is fine. Their offense is putrid. And,
Terrible.
And
they lost some of their better players in the portal.
Yeah. And so, I mean, think about it's a very interesting match. This is a Sunday game, I believe. Sunday morning.
Sunday at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Yep. 11 a.m. Central.
I was Jason McCourty played corner at Rutgers. I was talking with him when he was in town recently, and he's calling this game.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, this is a weird spot because Northwestern's coming off a 1-win season, and they have, with this offseason, nothing to lose. It is us against them. And with Rutgers, when is the last time Rutgers was in a pressure game in a must-win like feel to it, where they have everything to lose if you lose to Northwestern, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's a weird dynamic given the fact that it's Rutgers and they're not used to being in that spot, that feel, that vibe.
It's also
where you've got to show up in week one where there's always kinks that you've got to work out.
Yeah, there's not many Big Ten games you can point to in recent years where you'd say, man, it's going to be a real disappointment if Rutgers doesn't take care of business in this game.
And it's not like they're great.
And this is one of them.
And it's not like they're great to begin with. Defense is solid, but again, like you've got the interim coach who's a defensive coordinator from North Dakota State,
and they've got nothing to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not betting this game. But I'm thinking, keep an eye on it just to see how Rutgers performs.
Yeah, I would bet Rutgers
Northwestern can come out and just go with an onside kick and do something crazy.
Look, I would bet Rutgers to win this game and probably cover. I think it's like 6 or 7.
But that tells you
they're
about
favored by. Absolutely. There's just not a lot of wins out there. I mean, one of their non-conference is Vatek at home. Wagner, Temple should be Northwestern. Outside of that, there's no games where you look at and say, Rutgers is going to get this one.
Where did the Schiano buzz really get started? Because it bombed when he was in Tampa with the Bucs.
Well, it was at Rutgers because Rutgers was seen as an impossible place to win.
But then somehow he's been able to keep that momentum even after bombing out.
So Urban Meyer and Greg Schiano are very much cut from the same cloth of just complete hard-ass disciplinarian type guys that are a little bit unhinged at times, but yet know exactly what they want in a program and are unrelenting in getting that. So when Urban Meyer hired him to work on that staff, that was his rebirth because he was a part of a team that was very successful. So that's what got him back in the spotlight. Then we know what happened with Tennessee and Schiano Sunday, which is now famous, where Tennessee fans revolted and had that offer rescinded for him to be the head coach. And then he became this sort of media pity man, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, come on, guys.
Well,
look what he did at Rutgers. He's a good guy.
Well, even with the Penn State
no
stuff.
one deserves this, and Tennessee fans are crazy and all that.
Chad,
yeah, he got a pass in that too.
Yeah,
but a lot of guys did that were on those staffs.
Sure, but the results versus interviews, offers, who's there, who's not, the craziness in how it was portrayed.
Look, I think he would have been a terrible hire at Tennessee and done a terrible job. It was not the right fit. If there's ever a good fit for him, it's Greg Schiano at Rutgers. This is the one thing that could work out. We are seeing before our very eyes, and we'll see it again on Sunday, why I don't think any human will work out at Rutgers in the Big Ten. It's not a Big Ten program. It's a fish out of water. They need a new conference. They're never going to be successful. But you know how they are successful? The checks they get from the Big Ten. That's success.
Cash them. Big and Rich has cashed a lot of checks, Chad. John Rich, and they're coming to your city with game day. Not going to feature Big and Rich any longer. It's going to feature Darius Rucker, Lainey Wilson, and I believe there's one more. Cadillac 3 is also on this. But they're going to be performing the latest version of Coming to Your City as they open to College game day, not Big and Rich.
So John Rich continues to cash checks because they're licensing his song and doing a new version of it.
Yeah,
a cover of his song. For
they will
game
unveil
day.
that on Saturday morning.
I'm totally fine with that. I like the song. It fits well with game day and the vibe of it.
It fits to the whatever the games are.
When you hear it, like I'm hearing it now, and I've already got it in my head, and it's stuck there all Saturday and all weekend. When you hear that song, so it's a bit of an earworm. And I don't think John Rich is all that great at singing and performing. I think he's a good songwriter and a good business guy. So I think Darius Rucker will do a better job with the song, would be my guess. And Lainey Wilson.
Like he did with Wagon Wheel? Because I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I think Darius Rucker's good.
He's good.
I liked him with Hootie, and I like him I like him. I just don't prefer to hear John Rich.
I
sing.
think the open to Game Day has been awesome with that song.
Yeah, I think he's a very smart business guy.
You don't save a horse, ride a cowboy.
I mean, I celebrate that song, but who doesn't? If you don't get up for Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy, then you're just not going to get excited about anything. There's nothing that you like. Do you like to live?
Yeah.
It's the same answer, right? Of course I like that song. Who
Chad,
doesn't? But I think someone else could be better singing it.
Tomorrow?
Like Big.
They with his big hat sitting in front of us at Mumford & Sons. Are you ready for Game Day? Because tomorrow is just that.
We're here.
We've got you covered. Hot Mike with Honey Withrow. Kick things off tomorrow. 3 o'clock Eastern, 3 to 6. We'll get you through the day. Join us across the Outkick Network.